He is a poor boy who is looked down upon by others. By chance, he finds out that he has several uncles involved in the mafia, and from there, he starts to rise to the peak of his life. These uncles, who either drive him around to enjoy the breeze or take him to the beach to surf, also teach him how to use force to regain his dignity if anyone annoys him, handing him a gun and showing him how to use it.
How'd that feel?
Not long before, the protagonist Joshua's mother died of a drug overdose in their home. He didn't cry or cause a scene, seemingly having known that his mother would meet such an end, though he couldn't prevent it. Afterward, he called his grandmother, whom he hadn't seen in 11 years.
Mom OD'd. She died.
Soon after, his grandmother Janine drove him to her mansion, where luxury cars lined the driveway, and cash was scattered around the house. Joshua's uncles, noticing his hesitancy, asked a few questions and set up a room for him. Barry, noticing Joshua's worn-out shoes, pulled out a wad of cash and told him to fix up his appearance, teasing him not to choose the color orange, saying it made him look gay. Later, the uncles complained to their mother, saying they didn't like Joshua's presence. They didn't trust this nephew they hadn't seen in years and were concerned that his presence might affect their upcoming jewelry store heist. It turns out Joshua's grandmother, along with her sons, had established the most notorious crime family in the area, nicknamed She Trum. Even though she knew bringing Joshua here wasn't ideal, as he was her grandson and she couldn't bring herself to kick him out after his mother's death, she firmly stood her ground and warned her sons. If I want him to stay, he stays. If anyone disagrees, after this job, you won't get a penny, not a single dime. Faced with Janine's firm stance, they reluctantly agreed to respect her decision. To help Joshua quickly integrate into the Cody family, Janine hosted a welcoming party. Joshua's uncles also respected Janine and had everyone chant his name, encouraging him to jump over a fire and into the pool, completing the family initiation ritual. Joshua had lived a quiet life for decades, but faced with his uncle's wild lifestyle, he couldn't adapt. He retreated to his room, where he coincidentally ran into his uncle Andrew, who had just returned from prison.
Who's Jay? I'm Josh.
After Joshua introduced himself as Andrew's nephew, Andrew seemed to take an instant dislike to him. Just then, Janine arrived to find Joshua, and upon seeing Andrew, she froze for a moment.
You just ruined my surprise.
In the living room, facing Andrew's sudden return, the atmosphere was incredibly tense. Craig wanted to crack a joke, but was stopped by Barry's glance, as if declaring ownership, since Andrew was the most capable one in the Cody family. During the time Andrew was in prison, Janine had placed a lot of trust in Barry, giving him control over both major and minor affairs in the household. Barry feared that Andrew's return would affect his standing in Janine's eyes. Given the complex family dynamics, Joshua felt a bit uncomfortable. He made up an excuse and rode his bike out of the house to his girlfriend's place. He didn't return until evening when Andrew, sitting in the living room, called Joshua to stop and said that he and his mother were twins. If Joshua felt sad or scared about his mother's death, he could sit and talk with him. After saying that, Andrew continued watching TV. The next morning, Joshua dressed up properly to see his mother off. The neighbors who attended the funeral knew that Joshua's family wasn't exactly well off and warned him not to follow them. The woman said to Joshua, "Your mother may not have been strong, but she tried her best to keep you away from these people." Joshua responded, "I'm fine. Thank you for attending the funeral. But you shouldn't say that here." The neighbors, seeing his response, didn't say anything further and turned to leave. For Joshua, his grandmother's house was the last family he had. Although he knew they were involved in bad things, he chose to stay with family. What happened next, however, turned Joshua's world upside down. During dinner, Craig made a snide comment about Joshua's girlfriend. "If you can use your mouth, I'll give you $100. Nikki, not wanting to spoil the mood, reluctantly complied. Even though Craig's behavior became increasingly outrageous, Joshua didn't dare say anything, only advising his girlfriend.
You really don't have to do this, Nikki.
Shut up, man. That's loser talk.
In the Cody family, the strongest person has the power to speak. Even though Joshua had just arrived, he was furious but could only endure, not daring to defy his uncles. It wasn't over yet. After dinner, Craig did drugs in front of everyone and asked Nikki, "How about you do some?" Nikki replied, "Thanks, I'm fine with just smoking cigarettes." Craig didn't force her, but made Darren sit beside and fetch cigarettes for Nikki. Not long after, Andrew saw Joshua and Nikki sleeping soundly on the couch. He stood up, walked over to Nikki, and carried her into Joshua's room, but Joshua was still awake. Andrew saw Joshua follow him and said, "The girl is really pretty," before leaving. While Joshua was showering, Andrew came to find him again, wanting to take him out for some training. He didn't want any weakling in the house, but Joshua lacked experience. The first time he tried stealing a bike, he was caught red-handed. Andrew saw Joshua getting beaten and not knowing how to fight back. Annoyed, he grabbed an iron rod and went to deal with the bike owner, hitting him relentlessly, then took the ID card from the man's pocket and threatened him, saying if he called the police, he would take revenge on his family. After returning home, Janine saw the bruises on Joshua's face and yelled at Andrew, telling him not to take Joshua out again without her permission.
I'll not do that again. Not without asking me.
Joshua stared at Andrew as if warning him not to bully Janine. Andrew angrily grabbed Joshua by the neck, but Janine didn't stop him. Andrew wasn't being malicious, part of it was to help Joshua grow, and part of it was to vent his own frustration, as Andrew had been forced by Janine to do bad things since he was 6 years old. Fortunately, Joshua was stubborn, and even though he was in pain, he didn't beg for mercy. Only then did Andrew acknowledge this grandson. Although Joshua appeared calm on the outside, he was deeply afraid inside. When Janine tried to comfort him, he pushed her hand away, then rode his bike out. He knew he had no emotional bond with these uncles. If he made them angry, he was sure they would kill him. So, he wanted to leave, to get away from Janine and these scary uncles. He rummaged through his mother's belongings, trying to find any information about his real father, but he didn't even know his father's name, let alone find him. After crying for a while, Joshua reluctantly rode back home, just in time to run into the thug who sold drugs to his mother. The thug came to demand money, and when he insulted his mother, Joshua couldn't hold back his anger.
She's dead, asshole!
The thug begged for mercy, and Joshua, regaining his composure, decided to let him go. He took the thug's gun and tucked it into his waistband for protection, just in case his uncles got out of hand. Meanwhile, Barry, Craig, and Darren began their operation. They drove into a watch shop and stole all the expensive watches. Afterward, they made their escape through the back, regrouped with Darren, and left the scene. Unfortunately, they ran into a police patrol in an alley. While fleeing, they accidentally killed one of the officers. The other cop immediately opened fire, hitting Craig in the back. The next morning, Joshua went to the river and threw his mother's phone into the water, bidding farewell to the past. Then he rode his bike back to his grandmother's house, determined to prove himself through strength. But when he entered the living room, he saw his uncles tending to their wounds. At that moment, there was no fear in his eyes, only the determination to become strong. When Joshua entered the bathroom, he discovered Darren's strange habit. He quickly turned around and acted as though he hadn't seen anything. Darren, noticing this, quickly adjusted his pants, beat up the man, and accused him of stealing his money, calling Joshua to help him deal with the man in order to cover up his own peculiar behavior. After going outside, Darren explained what happened earlier. Joshua didn't say anything and quickly changed the subject, telling Darren that Janine needed him and asked him to go back. After saying that, Joshua rode his bike home. Seeing this, Darren suggested Joshua put his bike in the car and go back together, but Joshua didn't want to cause trouble, so he declined Darren's offer. Darren became angry when Joshua refused to listen, fearing he might speak out of turn, so he honked the horn behind him and told him to stop. But instead of stopping, Joshua turned into a park to avoid him, which only made Darren furious. Just when Joshua thought he had lost Darren, Darren came out of a side street, still shouting for him to stop. Joshua, scared, turned around and pedaled faster, afraid Darren would kill him because of what happened earlier. In the end, Joshua panicked and fell off his bike. Darren saw this and stopped, telling him they would talk when they got home, then drove away. Later that evening, Darren excitedly said he wanted to compete with Joshua. Joshua didn't dare refuse and reluctantly agreed. The two grabbed dumbbells and jumped into the pool, sinking to the bottom. Darren looked at Joshua with a malicious gaze. Joshua could no longer hold his breath and released the dumbbells to swim up, but Darren grabbed his leg and pulled him back down. Joshua struggled with all his might to escape, but couldn't. After a while, Darren finally let him go. It was clear this was a warning from Darren. If Joshua dared to speak about this morning, he would find a way to kill him. The next morning, Janine called a meeting with everyone. Their robbery of the watches had killed a police officer, making the situation extremely serious. To ensure safety, Janine decided to destroy the evidence and declared that all operations would stop, and there would be no more risks. This decision upset the cousins. The expensive watches they had risked their lives to steal were now going to waste, but Janine, being very cautious, overruled them. She didn't want her children to have money but no life to spend it. Later, Janine and Barry went to a factory where they had the employees throw the watches into a furnace to destroy them. Afterward, Janine, alone, went to a storage facility and locked the watches in a safe. Indeed, the older you get, the more cunning you become. Janine's actions were understandable, considering her sons spent everything they earned without saving. Soon enough, their money ran out, and they had no choice but to secretly go behind Janine's back to find a way to make some money. That day, Andrew took Joshua out to broaden his horizons and dragged Darren along to rob a safe in a factory office. They went to the side of the office, using a hammer to break the wall. Once inside, they used tools to lift the safe. At that point, Darren saw someone coming and quickly told Andrew to retreat. Andrew, knowing there was still enough time, didn't plan to leave and calmly pushed the safe to the cart. However, when they tried to push the safe away, they realized it was too large, and they had to cut the metal pillar inside to move it. The pillar was full of wires, and Darren was afraid that using a power saw to cut it would electrocute them, so he hesitated and ran away. At this moment, Joshua grabbed the power saw, cut through the electric pole and wires, and helped Andrew move the safe. Afterward, Andrew cracked open the safe, took some cash, and discussed with Joshua that they would split the money, leaving a portion for the coward Darren. After this, Andrew began to respect Joshua more and silently accepted him as part of the family, paying more attention to him. Joshua also began to solidify his position in the Cody family. However, an upcoming event would once again push him to the brink. The teacher, filled with the essence of femininity, suddenly expressed her feelings towards him. Her gentle and alluring manner made it impossible for anyone to resist. Joshua slowly lost himself. Joshua looked her up and down. He knew what she was planning, because in the eyes of the students, she was always upright and strict. So when faced with her overt invitation, Joshua was a bit confused, but he didn't refuse. That evening, when Joshua arrived at the teacher's house, she offered him a bottle of wine and asked him to sit down and talk for a while. After a while, both of them were a little tipsy. Being alone in a room together made Joshua think a lot, but he wasn't sure what the teacher meant in that regard. It wasn't until her gaze grew more suggestive that she placed her hand on Joshua's thigh, causing his heart to race. He didn't know what to do. Seeing his hesitation, she withdrew her hand in disappointment and took a large gulp from the wine bottle.
I should probably get going.
In reality, many young men had fantasized about getting close to their teacher, but when the moment actually came, they felt embarrassed. So, the next evening, Joshua went to the teacher's house again. As soon as he entered, she kissed him passionately, but quickly pushed him away. It was clear that she had intentionally seduced him before, and now that she had gotten what she wanted, she was playing a game of bait and starve. There was definitely some scheme behind this. Sure enough, the next afternoon, the teacher met with a police officer named Pamela by the lake. It turned out that the teacher had secretly bought illegal drugs and was caught by Pamela. Normally, she would be arrested and face a 20-year prison sentence. Pamela gave the teacher a chance to reduce her sentence. She would have to intentionally seduce Joshua. If necessary, she could offer herself to extract evidence of Cody family's crimes, but playing with the emotions of a student made her feel extremely guilty. No matter how much Pamela tried to persuade her, she didn't want to continue cooperating with the police. With no other options, Pamela found another way to break the case. She gave the teacher a reason, saying that everyone in the Cody family was cruel. If she truly cared for her student, she had to immediately rescue Joshua from that place. At the same time, Joshua's family began a new series of actions, planning to steal a large sum of money from a military base. They had such audacity because Joshua's girlfriend's father was a senior manager there. Since Joshua's girlfriend, Nikki, often stayed overnight at his house, her father was furious. He came to Joshua's house to vent his anger. In response, Janine's first action was to say that she knew nothing about the situation and apologized to Nikki's father. She also invited his family to dinner at their house. Nikki's father, seeing Janine's sincerity and knowing that his daughter liked Joshua, agreed because sooner or later, they would become in-laws. However, Nikki's father was a show-off. While eating, he boasted about counting hundreds of thousands of dollars every day, trying to show how much work he had and how stressful it was. Barry, sensing an opportunity, quickly struck up a conversation with Nikki's father, talking about some of his hobbies. After that, they probed information from Nikki and learned that her father had failed 3 times to get promoted and was somewhat dissatisfied with the system in his department. Barry was secretly pleased. That's why he frequently invited Nikki's father out for drinks, flattering him. Soon, they became close friends. During this time, Barry often probed Nikki's father to see if he was willing to do something reckless, like seeking revenge on his boss for failing to get promoted 3 times. Nikki's father understood the implication of Barry's words, and after thinking for a while, he gave an answer. I could do things like altering their records. Then steal all the money. Barry asked further. Will they be angry? Nikki's father replied. Of course. Money can even control the devil. Nikki's father's words carried a lot of hidden meaning. It meant that if he could gain enough from it, he would be willing to take the risk and cooperate with Barry. Of course, Barry couldn't trust Nikki's father just on these words alone. So, Barry did more to probe him, for example, asking him how to avoid taxes and reduce the tax burden, and then slipping an envelope to him as a thank you, to see if he would accept the money. Sure enough, Nikki's father only pretended to hesitate a little before accepting the envelope. So that evening, Barry went to meet Nikki's father alone and directly revealed his plan. At first, Nikki's father was adamant that he wouldn't engage in anything illegal, but Barry kept convincing him. You need the money, this is a great opportunity. It will change your life. Work with us, and we'll make a big score. After learning about this, Joshua hoped his girlfriend's family wouldn't get dragged into Barry's schemes, so he immediately went to see Nikki and, to protect her, suggested that they break up so she could stay away from his family and stop coming to find him. Later, Joshua went to talk to Janine and told her that Nikki had broken up with him. He wanted to use this as a way to distance the two families and prevent them from working together. However, Joshua didn't expect that on his way back home, Nikki would run into Barry. After hearing that Joshua had broken up with Nikki, Barry immediately called Joshua to the beach to threaten him. But Joshua wasn't afraid and warned Barry to stay away from Nikki's family. Barry, enraged, said, "Are you teaching me how to do my job? Who do you think you are? You should be grateful that you're still standing here talking to me. You're really lucky." This sense of helplessness made Joshua extremely uncomfortable. He didn't know what to do and didn't want to go home, so in the evening, he went to knock on his teacher's door, wanting to play a game with her to ease his frustration. After being dumped by her boyfriend, Nikki saw her ex-boyfriend showing intimate gestures with the teacher. To take revenge on Joshua, she started dating his uncle and even slept with him. Afterward, she came to see Joshua with a provocative look and said, "My uncle and I just had a quickie. I just wanted to let you know. If you see me at your house, don't be surprised." But she didn't know that Joshua broke up with her to protect her. Moreover, the relationship between Joshua and the teacher wasn't what Nikki thought. In fact, that day Joshua was negotiating with the teacher. She was an informant placed by the police close to Joshua, and she had approached him to gather evidence about the Cody family's crimes. But playing with a student's emotions like this made her feel extremely guilty. So, in the end, she confessed everything to Joshua. She told Joshua that she was arrested by the police for buying illegal drugs. If she could get useful evidence from him, she would have her 15-year prison sentence reduced. Therefore, she hoped Joshua could cooperate with the police.
You don't know them. They find out that I talked to the cops. No idea what they'll do to me.
After saying this, Joshua left. Coincidentally, Nikki, who was nearby, saw this scene, which led her to date and sleep with Joshua's uncle. The misunderstanding and betrayal from his girlfriend made Joshua feel completely hopeless. He went to the teacher, crying, hoping for comfort, and said that everything good about him had been destroyed by his uncles. Seeing this, the teacher knew the opportunity had come. She immediately arranged for Joshua to meet Pamela. Faced with Pamela's advice, Joshua hesitated. Even though he lived in fear every day, worried that one day his uncle might kill him, he still didn't want to betray his family. Pamela, seeing Joshua hesitate, decided to tempt him with a little sweetness. So, Pamela called the teacher out and told her to offer herself to Joshua under the guise of love to probe him.
That you love him.
Well, he's not gonna believe that.
He is a teenage boy. He'll believe whatever you tell him.
Although the teacher didn't want to do this, to reduce her 15-year prison sentence, she had no choice but to follow Pamela's instructions. The next day, Pamela came to meet Joshua again. With the help of the sweet words from the teacher, Joshua finally agreed to cooperate with the police, hoping to bring down the Cody family once and for all. Pamela then went to Barry's wife, revealing to her a long-buried secret. Janine killed her father. Although she was very angry upon hearing this news, she truly could not betray her husband. She wanted to take her daughter and leave. When she returned home, Barry's wife packed a suitcase to prepare to take her daughter away. Although she could not betray her husband, it did not mean she could forgive Janine for what she had done. After packing, she took her daughter to Janine's house, pretending to visit her, then secretly went to the back of the house, moved the washing machine, and took some of the money that Janine had hidden there. Meanwhile, Janine was in the living room playing with her granddaughter. She overheard her granddaughter talking about the mother and the police meeting. Janine, thinking Barry's wife was betraying the family, sent Andrew to kill her. At first, Andrew didn't believe Barry's wife had betrayed the family, but he quickly discovered the packed suitcase. Barry's wife, realizing her secret was out, feared Andrew would stop her from leaving, so she used her emotions to seduce him. She said she wanted to run away with Andrew to another place and start a new life. After saying this, she made a move on Andrew. Although Andrew didn't want to kill her, for the safety of the family, he had no choice but to act. Afterward, Andrew dragged the body to a deserted place to bury it, but when he looked at the child in the car, he couldn't bring himself to do it. This child was officially Barry's daughter, but in reality, she was his and Barry's wife's child. The next morning, Nikki's father came to the Cody house, deciding to carry out the military base robbery plan. After everything was prepared, they dressed in blue outfits and got ready for action. First, they went to a training area next to the military base, pretending to be there for fun. Then, while no one was looking, they snuck behind the mountain to the back entrance of the base, disguised as soldiers, waiting there. Soon after, someone threw them a key. Once inside, the four of them clearly divided the tasks. 3 of Barry's group went along the ventilation ducts into the storage room while Darren stayed outside to keep watch. Once inside the storage room, Barry took a key from his pocket and opened the metal door to the vault containing money. They had never seen so much money in their lives. Although they wanted to take all the money, they knew it was impossible, so they only took part of the money from the middle, replacing it with fake money and peeling the seals off the real bills to put on the fake ones. Meanwhile, Darren, guarding outside, saw someone approaching the vault and immediately used the walkie-talkie to alert the others inside. Barry's group hid behind a chest, ready to fight at any moment. Fortunately, the soldiers who entered the vault were not very observant and didn't notice the missing money from the middle. After the soldiers left, they quickly used the fake money to fill the gap, then used a heat gun to seal the bags. Next, they placed the money in bags with trackers, put them into oil barrels, and marked them. Once everything was done, they returned, changed back into their original outfits, and went back to the training area. When Janine saw that her children had safely returned, her anxious heart calmed down. Now, they just had to wait for the oil barrels to be transported out. Not long after, they saw on the iPad that the oil barrels were moving. After using the tracker to find the target, they waited for the truck to stop so the driver could go to the bathroom. They sneaked into the truck and took the money, but when they took the money back, Joshua went alone to meet Janine and said to her, "Do you have a place to hide this money? 2 cops are waiting for me to send a message. I think they've surrounded the house by now." A while later, many police officers surrounded the Cody house. Everyone calmly raised their hands and cooperated with the police to search the house, but after searching for half a day, they still couldn't find the money. Pamela was furious, feeling like she had just been played. She couldn't understand why Joshua changed his mind midway. At this point, Joshua said to her, "It's in a small corner. When I was a kid, I sat there playing. At that time, you came to check if my mother was using opium. She cried and begged you to leave. But you still gave her money to buy opium. Just because you wanted to achieve your goal." Although Joshua's mother hated Janine deeply when she was alive, she had never betrayed the Cody family. Therefore, in the end, Joshua decided never to betray his family. Meanwhile, Barry returned home to find his wife wasn't there and her phone went unanswered. He had no choice but to take his daughter to Janine's house and ask her to look after her. Janine, feeling uneasy, pretended to probe Barry's attitude toward his wife, telling him that his wife had stolen money from her. She said that his wife was tired of this bloody life and took the money to leave, wanting to start a new life. But Barry didn't believe her, saying his wife would never abandon their daughter. Seeing this, Janine decided to go all the way. She placed a stack of money on the table. Barry immediately recognized where it came from. This was the money he had given to Andrew's prison friend. During the 3 years Andrew was in prison, this friend had taken care of Andrew and even saved his life multiple times. So, Andrew agreed to join the underworld with him once he was out of prison. However, the Cody family never cooperated with outsiders. After learning of this, Barry took Andrew to meet the prison friend and gave him a sum of money as compensation, but the man was dissatisfied. He wanted to join the Cody family instead. So, the man privately met with Janine, telling her his purpose for visiting and returned the money to her. Janine, not wanting to cooperate with outsiders, kicked him out. To make Andrew's prison friend take the fall, Janine lied, saying that before he left, the man had said he would come back to take revenge. The first person to act was Barry's wife. Andrew, overhearing this, understood Janine's intent and arranged to meet with the prison friend. He tied him up at an abandoned construction site, allowing Barry to vent his anger. When questioned by Barry, the man denied ever meeting his wife, but Barry didn't believe him, continuously beating him. After the ordeal, Barry asked Andrew to help him deal with the situation. Perhaps due to guilt, Andrew didn't kill him, but instead threw him in front of a hospital, stuffing a stack of money into his pocket before leaving. After Nikki and Joshua's uncle started dating, the two of them would often awkwardly run into each other at home. Meanwhile, Joshua's hatred for the family began to grow. He could be seen holding the gun that Janine gave him, glaring at the people outside with eyes full of hatred. Check out Joshua's shoes. Turns out they're his dad's old pair. Who'd have thought his grandma, Janine Smurf Cody, is the most notorious crime boss around. After moving in with her, Joshua gets thrown into the deep end, trained to join the family business. He's got 4 uncles: Pope, Baz, Craig, and Darren, all tough as nails. But Smurf only has eyes for Joshua. She personally teaches him how to shoot every gun under the sun and even gets a lawyer to sign over all her power to him. In short, everything Smurf owns is now at Joshua's fingertips. If something happens to her, he's the sole heir. His uncles, they don't get a dime. So why's Smurf playing favorites? It all goes back to a brewery heist. Pope sneaks into the warehouse, cuts the power, and disables the cameras. Baz poses as a distributor touring the place, then slips into the office to team up with Pope. Together, they haul a safe onto a cart, planning to sneak it out through the sewer where Craig and Darren are waiting. But then Joshua, on lookout duty, spots someone heading toward the warehouse. He texts Pope and Baz to hide, then quick thinks a distraction. He lights 2 matches, tosses them into a trash can, and sparks a panic. The manager sees the fire, freaks out about it spreading, and locks the warehouse down while calling for help. That buys Pope and Baz enough time to lower the safe into the sewer. The crew drives off, pulling off the job like clockwork. Here's the kicker, after all that effort, the safe only has a measly $100 inside. Furious, they storm home to confront Smurf. She admits she picked a dud target, but her sons push their luck, demanding she hand over control. Hurt, Smurf fires back. "If I weren't running things, you'd all be in jail or worse." She turns to Baz, "Forgot how I bailed you out with every penny I had after your botched robbery, you'd still be locked up without me." Then to Craig, "You messed up big, if I hadn't stepped in, you'd be missing your tongue." Finally, to Darren, who called me to save them when they were stripped naked and tied to a chair in a freezer. These guys are all over 30, grown men raised through blood and sweat by their mom, Smurf, yet now, no matter what, they're ready to seize this chance to ditch her even if it means cutting ties for good. Baz storms out of the mansion first, followed by Craig and Darren. Only Joshua stays behind. Smurf, fuming, yells after them.
Let's see how long you all last.
Late that night, Smurf sits alone in the living room, drunk, staring out the window. Memories flood back of happier days playing with the kids. She never imagined they'd end up scattered like this. The next morning, she heads out to run errands like nothing's wrong. Suddenly, a car screeches up, and two burly guys jump out, grabbing her. She's no match for them physically and gets dragged into the vehicle. But Smurf doesn't flinch. She lies back coolly and says, "Wake me up when we get there." Soon enough, they haul her to a desolate spot. Turns out her kidnapper is the kid she abandoned 20 years ago. He orders his goons to strip her of her jewelry, then cocks his gun, claiming she killed his dad back in the day and now he's here for payback. Smurf's not buying it. If he really wanted her dead, he wouldn't be monologuing. A veteran of the underworld, she cuts to the chase. "How much do you want?" He doesn't beat around the bush. 300 grand by tomorrow, or she's toast. For Smurf, cash is the easy fix. She's not in the mood for a fight. She grabs the money and tracks down Mike, Darren's dad, asking him to tag along for the drop. Big mistake. The second Mike sees the cash, greed takes over. Ignoring their 30-year bond, he threatens her to hand it over. Smurf's stunned. She can't believe he'd stab her in the back.
We had a baby together.
Does he know that? No, he doesn't know that, because you never told him.
He ties her hands with an electrical cord, grabs the money, and bolts. Smurf isn't about to wait for the end. Spotting a blanket on the floor, she rummages through a drawer, grabs something, and chucks it at the phone on the table. Carefully, she drags the blanket closer and finally snags the landline. Once she grabs the phone, Smurf dials Pope for help right away. He shows up soon after, but the blackmailer, pissed that Smurf didn't bring the cash, loses it. That night, he sends his goons to break into her mansion and settle the score. Meanwhile, Joshua's chilling with his girlfriend when he senses something's off. He signals her to hide, then sneaks to the living room for a gun. Before he can grab it, one of the thugs jumps him and beats the crap out of him. The blackmailer's mad about the no-show money, but he's not looking for a war, just cash. So instead of killing Joshua, he knocks him out and dumps him in the pool as a warning to Smurf. When she gets home and sees Joshua half dead by the water, she's done holding back. You don't mess with the Cody family's pride, and walk away. At midnight, Smurf calls a family meeting, ordering her 4 sons to take the guy out. But after the brewery heist flop, her word doesn't carry the same weight. The Cody clan's falling apart. Everyone's got their own agenda. They figure they can just pay the guy off and call it a day, not giving a damn about family honor. Smurf's livid, but she storms off, powerless. Next morning, Baz takes matters into his own hands, meeting the blackmailer to smooth things over. The guy's all about the money and happily agrees. Later, Baz brings Smurf to the drop. She's still fuming about Joshua getting jumped, though, and demands an apology before handing over the cash. Baz, wanting to keep things simple, tells the guy to grab the money and go, but Smurf steps out of the car, facing him down.
I didn't take you in because you were worthless. You were stupid and angry and impulsive, just like your father.
Turns out Smurf had already bought off his right-hand man. Messing with the Cody family's representative only ends one way: a grave. Job done. They stroll away like it's nothing. Next up, they target a church. Baz pretends to lose his wallet, chatting up the camera supervisor to distract him while texting Joshua. Joshua springs into action, using his top-notch lockpicking skills to slip into the storage room. He snaps pics with his phone to locate the safe. Lifting a rug, he spots it embedded in the floor and takes a quick shot. As he's about to bounce, a staffer walks in. Thinking fast, Joshua plays it cool and slips past him. On the other side, Craig and Darren pose as repairmen, sweet-talking their way past a church staffer to get inside. They hustle up to the roof to scope out the ventilation system. Meanwhile, Pope's in the main hall, fishing for info, charming the staff into spilling useful details. After a thorough check, the crew builds a mock-up of the church's vents at home. They tell Joshua and Darren to crawl inside and test how long they can last. Joshua grits his teeth and toughs it out, but Darren's dripping sweat and whining non-stop. He can't take it, kicks the vent open, climbs out, and says he's done with this job. Then he hops on his bike and peels out. Fed up, Baz decides to handle it himself. Soon enough, it's donation day at the church. Baz and Joshua show up for the event. When it's time to collect, Joshua slips an envelope with a tracker into the donation box. Not long after, the priest announces they've raised $330,000. Baz smirks, satisfied, then ducks out of the hall to the bathroom to gear up. The two crawl into the vents, while Pope seals the hatch from outside and jams the main door's lock on purpose. Using the tracker, Joshua confirms the priest has stashed all the cash in the safe. Baz signals Darren outside to kick things off. To distract the camera guy, Darren rams a car on the street and speeds off. Seizing the moment, Baz drops from the vent, spraying black paint over the camera. But Joshua gets stuck up there. Baz yanks him down hard, accidentally messing up his leg bad. With no time to spare, Baz tosses him some tape to wrap it up and stop the bleeding. Joshua panics about blood leaving evidence. What do I do?
Your DNA, is it in the database?
No.
Okay, then don't worry.
Baz grabs a foam sprayer and blasts the room to wipe out any traces. Then they get to work, drilling through the concrete around the safe and hauling it up with a winch. At the same time, the security guard, fresh from calling the cops about the crash, checks the monitors and spots the painted-over camera. He radios his team to investigate. But with the lock busted by Pope, they can't get in right away. By then, Joshua and Baz have nabbed the safe and bolted. When security finally catches up, the duo's long gone. Out on some abandoned land, Darren rolls up with a tow truck, cracks open the safe, and pulls out $330,000 in cash. Then he uses the truck to crush the getaway car from the job, leaving no trace behind. While the crew's kicking back with drinks to celebrate, Darren's sharp eye catches Joshua's leg wound getting worse. No hospital's an option, so they handle it themselves. Baz grabs a stapler, and Darren holds Joshua's shoulders tight. It hurts like hell, but Joshua clenches his jaw and doesn't make a sound. Not long after, they're onto the next gig, a yacht hosting a wedding. The rich folks running it went all out, pinning cash all over the bride's dress, practically begging the crew to take it. Craig slips in as a waiter. Once the yacht's far from shore, he texts his girlfriend to sabotage the engine, then calls the rescue team to stall them. Next, he drops a rope over the side for the crew to climb up later. Heading to the engine room, he flips on a signal jammer, cutting off all comms, then stabs the fuel line with a knife, letting oil spill into the sea. In no time, the engine's toast, and the helm's gauges go dead. The captain notices and sends someone to check. Right then, Pope and the gang pull up in a speedboat, scaling the yacht with the rope. They split up. Joshua takes down the waitstaff and cooks. Pope handles the front crew, neutralizing them. Darren and Malcolm hit the main hall, locking it down. They announce it's just a robbery, no one's getting hurt as long as everyone plays nice. Words alone don't cut it, though. They need to flex some muscle. Pope shoves a waitress to the floor. Craig pulls a hero act to save her, only to get decked by Pope, who keeps up the fake beatdown. It clears Craig of suspicion and scares the crowd into submission, letting them run the show. They whip out bags, ordering everyone to fork over cash and jewelry. The bride's money-covered dress, fair game. But one rich lady won't hand over her ring and starts mouthing off. Joshua, clueless about Spanish, signals Malcolm. He steps up, barking at her in Spanish to give it up. Malcolm doesn't hesitate, laying her out. The room erupts in chaos. They're forced to wave guns at the crowd while backing off to the speedboat and peeling out. Back on shore, Pope's pissed as hell.
You let an old lady get under your skin, almost blew the whole job. Toss you in the ocean. Hey, come on, Pope.
Pope's pissed at Malcolm's stunt. For the Cody crew, every job's about extortion, not hurting people. It keeps the risks low and the charges lighter if they get caught. Robbery and murder are two different beasts. That's the code that's kept their family standing in the game. Cut to another scene. Baz stumbles across his mom's secret cash stash. To get his hands on it, he cold-bloodedly sets Smurf up to take the fall and land in jail. The queen of the Cody clan, betrayed by her own son, ends up behind bars. On her first day inside, the prison's top dog spots her.
You Smurf? Yeah. I'm Trujillo. Jay sent us.
Smurf's heart racing a mile a minute, finally settles. She's impressed with her grandson's play. Not long before Baz had sniffed out Smurf's money vault, he bribed the vault manager to spill the location, then slipped a tiny camera inside to scope it out. Next, he rented a warehouse next door, drove over to grab Joshua, and pitched him on the heist. Baz and Joshua hit the warehouse, buzzing through the dividing wall with an electric saw. Inside, they find over a dozen safes. They haul them all to their own spot, then patch everything up like nothing happened. Soon after, Smurf swings by with a bag to grab her cash, but when she opens the door, she freezes every single safe's gone. Meanwhile, the vault manager, flush with Baz's bribe money, buys a pack of smokes. He's about to light one when Smurf zaps him with a stun gun. Under her threats, he spills everything. Some stranger paid him off to give up her vault number. Smurf pulls out her phone, showing him Baz's picture.
Yeah, that's him.
She swipes to Joshua's photo. He says he's never seen him. That's a relief, at least her grandson's still solid. Later, she tracks down Joshua and hooks him up with a lawyer. Smurf yanks Baz's power of attorney and hands the reins over to Joshua. Meanwhile, Baz knows the safe heist will eventually blow up in his face with Janine, so he decides to strike first. While she's out dropping her granddaughter at school, he sneaks into the mansion, grabs the gun she's stashed in the fridge, digs up the body of that bald blackmailer from way back, and shoots the corpse with it. Then he calls the cops. That night, as Janine's driving, the police roll up and cuff her. She's thrown in jail for murder, her prints logged into the system. Next morning, Baz pulls out a suitcase stuffed with cash and jewelry, gathers the crew, and spills the beans about Janine hoarding money all these years. He's playing the honesty card to win them over, hoping to dodge any revenge plots she might cook up later. But the loot he shows is just a fraction. Next, he pitches selling off all of Janine's properties and splitting it even. Darren and Craig aren't on board. They figure Baz can't outmaneuver Janine and walk out. Joshua gets up and follows. Later, he uses cash to hire prison muscle to protect Janine, then meets her to strategize. For now, Janine's handed all her power to Joshua. Without his sign-off, Baz can't touch her assets.
As long as you don't sign anything, you'll be fine. Just stall, baby, okay?
When he learns Joshua's got the reins, he calls a meeting, lays it out for everyone, and leans on Joshua hard. Joshua's quick on his feet, flipping the script and calling Baz out for not coming clean with all the money, pocketing a fat chunk for himself. Baz loses it, ready to throw punches, but Darren and Craig hold him back. They think Joshua's got a point. Pope, quiet till now, steps in to cool things off, and both sides simmer down. Elsewhere, Baz plots to grab the cash, ditch the land, and skip town with his wife. But just as he's about to bounce, he gets taken out in an ambush. A timid kid who used to get bullied is now the head of a crime family. What's that even like? After Janine and her son Baz cut ties, the Cody family's reputation takes a nosedive. Even the neighbors, who put up with them for years, now have the guts to barge in. They warn Craig, who's throwing a loud party, to turn the music down, or they won't play nice. Craig, being Craig, can't stand the threat and tells them to get lost. Big mistake, he ends up getting the crap beaten out of him. Without Janine and Baz, the whole family's a mess. In the heat of the chaos, Joshua steps up to restore the Cody name, but he's still green. If he can't deliver, no one's gonna take him seriously. His first job as the new boss is getting a grip on the family's finances. The uncles might not care, but Joshua can't afford to slack. If the money coming in doesn't match what's going out, the FBI will lock them all up. And the family's expenses are through the roof. Besides bankrolling his uncle's reckless spending, there's Janine's legal fees, plus a million other things. They also have to pay protection money on time to the mob to keep Janine safe in prison. Problem is, Baz took off with most of the family's cash last season, and with everything going down lately, they haven't been able to pull any jobs. The Codys are bleeding money, spending way more than they're making. Joshua even dips into his own savings to keep things afloat, but it's a drop in the bucket. Out of options, he heads to the mob's turf, surrounded by huge, menacing guys with mean mugs. A young kid like Joshua can't help but feel nervous. He meets the mob boss handling Janine's protection, asking for a few days extension on the payment.
See, the problem is you must think I'm some kind of think I'm a no. Shadow, did you see your face? The boss finally agrees to the extension, but Joshua's fuming inside. If Janine were here, that guy wouldn't dare talk down to him. That night, he takes out all his frustration on his girlfriend, but then, a bombshell. Joshua finds out Darren's been working with outsiders behind the family's back. Those fancy cars he's been dealing have made him a decent chunk of change. Joshua calls a family meeting, demanding Darren share the profits to help the family out. He also tells the uncles to cough up their personal stashes. The family's finances are on life support. If they don't have savings soon, the house will get foreclosed. They've been using real estate deals to throw off the cops, but if this keeps up, the Cody empire will crumble for good. Hearing this, the uncles finally start taking things seriously, but they're the type to spend every dime they make. Their combined savings barely amount to anything. That's when Joshua realizes just how tough Janine's had it.
And we need to pull a job.
Their next target is a shop under mob protection. Word is, the safe inside holds at least $100,000, but the place is crawling with security. Pulling this off won't be easy. Still, with Joshua calling the shots, the crew feels unstoppable. They split up to their assigned spots on the street. First up, Pope grabs his tools and heads to the target room, popping open the vent and crawling inside. After scoping the place with a camera and seeing it's clear, he signals Joshua outside to move in. Joshua pulls on a baseball cap and walks into the bank next door. As soon as he's in, Darren dials the cops from a burner phone.
Yeah, hi, I just saw somebody walk into a bank with his hoodie up. I think he has a gun.
With that done, Darren sets a mat on the steering wheel, puts in a mouthguard, and floors it, crashing into a car on the street. The cops spot the accident and rush over to check it out. Seizing the moment, Craig rolls up to the shop, hammering the front door shut. Pope drills the back door closed, leaving the two guys inside clueless and panicking. One of them tries to shoot the door open but ends up blasting his buddy's foot instead. Talk about not fearing a strong enemy, just a dumb teammate. They immediately call their boss for backup. The mob leader, hearing someone's messing with his turf, sends his goons to handle it. At the same time, a swarm of cops floods the street by the bank. When the mob crew shows up and sees the police everywhere, they don't dare make a move. That buys Pope's team extra time to pull off the job. Craig pulls up in a garbage truck, hooks a chain to the front door, and floors it, ripping the steel door right off. They load the safe onto the truck and drive off, cool as can be, right under the cops' noses. Talk about perfect timing. The police never even dreamed the real actions with the garbage truck, not the bank. This heist is a textbook win, netting them a whopping $200,000. Young and green as he is, Joshua's just earned everyone's respect with this one. It's a solid step toward cementing his place in the family. But Janine's a different story. She never negotiates or works with the team like Joshua does. Still, Joshua's ambitions don't stop here. He wants total control of the family, free from Janine's grip. Only you can keep me from getting beat up in here. And you're the only one who visits me. I'm in jail, and you're the only one who cares. If you don't come, I'll die in this place. Janine finally realizes that this seemingly harmless grandson is actually the most ruthless one in the family. Things have veered way off her plan. Joshua wastes no time rallying the crew for their next job. This time, they're targeting a cargo plane carrying $1 million in cash. Big reward, big risk. If they mess up, they're looking at life behind bars. But that doesn't stop them. Back home, they meticulously plan the perfect heist. First, Darren and Joshua will hide inside a large wooden crate prepped in advance, which a worker will load onto the plane. Pope and Craig will wait at the rendezvous point for backup. Everything's set, and the plane takes off. Inside, Joshua and Darren spring into action. Joshua cuts a hole in the crate with a knife, then uses a camera to scope out the surroundings. All clear, let's move. They bust out of the crate, gear up, and quickly take down the escort guards. These guys are just hired hands. No one's dying for cash that isn't theirs. That gets them straight to the cockpit. Joshua orders the pilot to keep flying. No landing, no funny business. Then he smashes the comms system to stop any calls to the cops. The pilot plays along, handing over his phone and wallet. Nice to meet you, Nelson. You wouldn't want to cause trouble for your perfect little family, right? Seeing the pilot's not about to fight back, the two head back to the cargo hold, stuff all the cash into duffel bags, and parachute out from over 30,000 feet. But they spent too long on the plane and end up jumping way off course from the rendezvous point. To make matters worse, there's no cell signal out here. Once the plane lands, the pilot's sure to call the cops. If that happens, they're done for. The consequences are too grim to think about. Luckily, the universe cuts them a break. After wandering, they stumble across a house. They play the lost card, asking to buy the woman's pickup truck to get out of there. She shocks them, demanding $10,000 just to let them go. You know that truck's not even worth $5,000. $5,000 for the ride, the other $5,000 so I forget you were ever here. What's in the bags? You know we could just take your truck and go, right? You want me to kill you both in front of my kid? Her words leave them stunned. A woman this fierce. It's a first for both of them. With no other choice, Joshua and Darren cave and make the deal. Finally, they link up with the rest of the crew. Back home, they rent a new warehouse to stash the cash from their heists, and this $1 million haul is the first big score to go in. You've got to hand it to Joshua. Under his lead, the Cody family's criminal empire is reaching new heights. Feeling on top of the world, they slip back into their old lavish lifestyle. But what they don't see coming is the storm brewing right after they leave the house that day.
Holy shit.
Having seen firsthand how they treated her while she was locked up, Janine comes back with one goal: to take back everything that's hers. The crew's faces drop like they've seen a ghost when they spot Janine out of prison. They put on fake smiles, pretending to welcome her back, but the one sweating bullets is Joshua. Just days ago, he said some brutal things to her face, and now karma's knocking. You're probably wondering, how the hell did she get out of jail? A few days earlier, a detective named Pierce showed up at the prison to see Janine. He made her an offer: hand over evidence of her son's crimes, and he'd work to get her sentence reduced. Otherwise, with her murder charge, she's looking at least 10 years. But a crime boss like Janine isn't fazed by threats, especially not from a cop trying to take down the whole Cody clan. She fires back. Pierce, you've got some nerve. Your witness evidence is worthless. If you had real proof, you wouldn't be here begging me. Pierce shoots back. Want to bet on that? Janine sees right through his bluff. She insists her sons run legit businesses and her grandson Joshua's just a kid, with nothing to work with. The detective has no choice but to leave her with a parting shot. See you in court tomorrow. The next day, a guard leads her down the hall and hands her a set of clothes. She figures it's her court outfit, but after she signs some papers, the guard says, "Congratulations, you're free to go." She can't believe her ears. Turns out Detective Pierce never found solid evidence against her, so he tried to bluff her with this stunt. Janine sits there, stunned, unable to speak. In the end, with no proof to hold her, she's set free. When she gets back, the family throws her a welcome home party. On the surface, the Cody clan looks all warm and fuzzy, but the very next day, Janine meets with her lawyer and revokes Joshua's inheritance rights. Given how he treated her before, she's done with him. All the assets go back under her control. Then Janine calls a family meeting. She says she's willing to let slide the money they made from their recent jobs, but on one condition: they have to track down the fortune Baz stole. Joshua claims they don't know who took the cash after Baz was killed, but Janine's convinced the one who knows is Catherine, the woman who vanished after Baz's death. For years, the Codys have been the ones robbing others, but now someone's dared to rob them. It's a slap in the face to their reputation. To make sure nothing goes wrong, Janine hires 2 hitmen, then tracks down the mobster who took out Baz, handing him a stack of cash.
I need you to take a little trip down to Mexico for me. Can you do that?
Got my attention.
Let's see what happens when Janine gets pissed. This guy had the guts to steal from her, but he's still playing tough, refusing to talk even on his deathbed. Today, she's using him to sharpen her blade, a warning to anyone in the family plotting against her. The guy's strapped to the table, pants off. Janine grabs a jar of fruit jam, smears it on him, and releases a few rats right onto his sensitive spot. The second the cage opens, the room fills with his blood-curdling screams. Turns out, while Janine was in prison, this guy and his sister took advantage and swiped a huge chunk of the family's money, plunging their finances into a serious crisis. They thought they'd gotten away clean, but now he's being tortured for a full day and night. Still, he clamps his mouth shut, not saying a word. Killing him would be easy, but then her money's gone for good. Left with no choice, Janine calls his sister, Catherine. "I've got a little gift for you." "What are you talking about?" "Gold, jewels, gems, checks, cash." Realizing the jig is up and her brother's in their hands, Catherine agrees to meet at the spot. Janine then rallies the whole family to plan the next move. She orders Joshua to go alone to grab Catherine, no bulletproof vest, or she'll call the cops. It sounds reasonable enough, but Joshua can't shake the feeling Janine's setting him up. Everything goes off without a hitch. Joshua quickly brings Catherine to the warehouse. They pop the trunk. Inside is the family's stolen fortune. Janine steps up to check, confirming nothing's missing, then orders Craig to hand over the guy. The deal wraps up fast, but the man, unable to handle being turned into a eunuch, snaps. In a split second, a fierce gunfight erupts, with both sides taking hits. Craig, dual-wielding pistols, keeps firing. On Catherine's side, seeing her brother badly wounded, she orders her crew to pull back, finally ending the battle. But when the dust settles, they realize Pope's gone. Everyone freezes in shock. In the enemy's hands, Pope's chances don't look good. Soon after, Janine gets a call from Catherine. Pope's with her now, and her brother took a bullet and died. She threatens Janine to pay up, or they can start planning Pope's funeral. But Catherine seriously underestimated the Codys. This isn't Mexico. Knowing she hasn't left their turf, Janine pretends to set up a meeting, then uses her intel network to rescue Pope safely. The price for messing with her people, a one-way ticket to the grave. Janine contacts the most powerful mob crew in the area, sparing no expense to hire hitmen to take them out. On the other side, Catherine, fresh off getting Janine's money, is basking in her victory. But the second she gets in the car, in no time, Catherine's entire family is dead. That's what you get for crossing Janine. Her sons clearly inherited her violent streak. Recently, a new gang's been stirring up trouble on their turf. The Cody brothers decide to step in and teach them a lesson. This is their territory, no one gets to run wild here. They head to the target spot, scale the wall, and sneak into the villa. Hearing a knock, one of the guys inside opens the door. The second it swings open, he takes a punch to the face, then gets kicked to the ground. In a flash, the Cody brothers take control, tying up the thugs. Darren's pretty pleased with the haul this time, leaving them with a parting line. "Get back to where you came from." Compared to his uncle's brute force, Joshua's not as strong in that department, but he's a master strategist. While Janine was in prison, he shamelessly siphoned off assets, even quietly snagging 3 of her properties. It's clear Joshua's been planning his exit strategy all along. Joshua's been buying up businesses left and right, both to secure his future and to launder dirty money. The big challenge now is figuring out how to pull it off without leaving a trail. When it comes to real estate paperwork, he's still a rookie. So, he secretly meets with Janine's lawyer, saying he wants to set up a few shell companies and needs her to handle some documents to hide the money's origins.
I get paid for that, you know.
I can pay you.
I'm gonna have to report this back to Smurf.
No, you won't.
Why not?
Because you're smarter than that.
But Joshua sees right through the lawyer's loyalty to Janine. Sure enough, the woman goes straight to Janine and spills everything. "He came to me asking about buying real estate, said he wants to set up shell companies, and told me to keep it from you. Looks like someone's got a death wish. Joshua's been keeping tabs on her. She took his money and still betrayed him. That's a one-way ticket to hell." After Janine leaves, Joshua ties the lawyer up, drags her onto a boat, and takes her out to sea. No matter how much she begs, he's not about to forgive someone who stabbed him in the back. He kills a fish, tosses it into the water, then stabs the lawyer in the leg before shoving her overboard. She freaks out there in the middle of the ocean. One splash, and she's shark bait. Joshua ignores her pleas, coldly steering the boat away. Since joining the Cody family, Joshua's come a long way. He even came close to taking over as leader, but because the lawyer spilled his secrets, and with how he treated Janine while she was in prison, he's now a thorn in her side. Life in the family's about to get rough for him. That night, he slips into Janine's room, whispering in her ear with a warm, chilling tone, "I'm going to take everything from you. Everything you care about. Everything you value. And everything you love." How can a single phone pull off a bank heist? Just watch the Cody family in action, and you'll see. Earlier that day, Joshua heads to a restaurant alone. He eyes 2 pretty waitresses, waiting for one to step away. Then, he accidentally spills his coffee to grab the other's attention. She rushes over to clean up the mess, and while she's distracted, Joshua swipes her phone. Why? Because this girl happens to be the bank manager's daughter. He ducks into the bathroom, finds a photo of her on the phone, and sends it to his uncles waiting outside the bank. Pope gets the message and signals the crew to move in. They roll up to the bank just as the manager's leaving work. Spotting their target, they slap on masks, grab their gear, and approach. While the manager's off guard, Craig pulls a gun, forcing him to comply.
What are you doing with a picture of my dog?
Meanwhile, Darren gets to work popping open the tech box and snipping the surveillance wires with pliers. Right then, the stolen phone rings. It's the manager calling his daughter. Joshua picks up, coldly telling him his daughter's in their hands, and if he doesn't do exactly what they say, she's done for. For his daughter's safety, the manager has no choice but to lead them inside. Once he opens the vault, Craig ties him up with rope, throws a black bag over his head, and orders him to kneel in the corner. Then, the two pull out their tools, drilling into the wall safe. When they crack it open, they're greeted by stacks of cash. But just as they're gleefully stuffing the money into bags, Darren, keeping watch outside, overhears through his earpiece that someone's called the cops. The bank on Bourbon Street is being robbed. All units, dispatch officers immediately. Darren quickly warns the guys inside that the cops are onto them. They've got 3 minutes to get out. Pope, pissed, thinks the manager tipped off the police, so he slams him against the wall, threatening him. The manager, trembling, reveals the alarm device in his hand. With time running out, the two speed up. Outside, Darren grabs a spray can to wipe down the car for fingerprints. The three regroup at the back exit, hop on motorcycles, and peel out of there. But the cops are already on their tail, chasing them relentlessly. The pursuit is a real eye-opener. Their riding skills are top-notch, and with a slick turn, they finally lose the police. On the other side, Joshua's been waiting with a delivery truck at the rendezvous point. The crew rides their bikes into the back, shuts the door, and sets up a perfect disguise. Joshua hops into the driver's seat, starts the engine, and drives off. The cops pass right by them, none the wiser. In the end, the job goes off clean. That night, through the cameras, Janine watches her boys make it home safe, a satisfied smirk creeping across her face. But she's not about to let them rest. She calls a family meeting, announcing she's already got the next heist lined up. This time, their target is a massive stone sculpture. The sculpture is on display at a private museum for visitors. Soon, a wealthy buyer sets his sights on it, but the artist refuses to sell, so he turns to the Cody family, asking them to figure out a way to steal it. If they pull it off, they'll pocket $800,000. Right away, Darren and Craig head to the museum to scope things out. They realize the place isn't just packed with people, the space is also pretty tight. Moving something that big is tough enough, let alone stealing it. But does the Cody family ever back down from a challenge? If they can't move it themselves, they'll make someone else do it. So, they hatch a secret plan. That night, Craig sneaks into the museum's parking garage under the cover of darkness. He flips off the security camera, then knocks over a row of bikes nearby. The guards spot this on the feed and rush down to the garage. With their attention diverted, Craig bolts to the museum's front entrance, smashes the glass door with a hammer, and sprays graffiti all over the sculpture. Not stopping there, he trashes everything around it, making a total mess, then rips off the sculpture's warning sign and takes it with him. His goal? To make the sculpture's owner feel the museum isn't safe anymore, forcing them to move it somewhere else, and during that transfer, the Codys will strike. Sure enough, the very next day, they get word that the museum's moving the sculpture to a new location. The crew jumps into action. Joshua and Darren disguise themselves as construction workers, setting up road-closed signs on the route the transport truck will take, pretending the road's under construction, and wait for the truck to show up. Meanwhile, Pope, stationed further down the road, spots the target truck and pulls his car right in front of it. Craig, on a motorcycle, cuts between the security car and the transport truck, flipping off the guards behind him to rile them up. Once the transport truck enters the construction zone, Joshua holds up a warning sign, stopping the security car.
Hey, I gotta stay with that truck.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we'll only be a minute.
Hey, pull over, we'll catch up in a minute.
The transport truck gets the order and pulls over to wait for security. Seizing the moment, Craig and Pope pull their guns, forcing the driver out and locking him in the back. Darren quickly finds the truck's GPS tracker, yanks it off, then covers the sculpture with a tarp and swaps the license plate with a fake one. With the truck fully disguised, Craig hops in and drives off the scene. Pope slaps the GPS tracker onto another random car to throw off any pursuit. The security team notices the GPS tracker moving. Sensing something's off, they ignore Joshua's attempts to stop them and speed off. But when they reach the location, all they find is a car Pope rigged to throw them off the trail. Just like that, the $1 million sculpture falls into the Cody family's hands. They deliver it to the rich buyer's house as planned. But a few days later, the $800,000 payment is still nowhere to be seen. Feeling played, the crew decides to take action, showing this guy just how dangerous the Cody family can be. They track down the buyer while he's driving. Darren and Craig rev their engines, taunting him from both sides, sparking his competitive streak. He floors it, but at a sharp turn, Pope's car cuts him off, scaring him into crashing to the ground. Craig pulls his gun, aiming straight at the buyer, ordering him to hand over anything valuable on him. Next time, you better pay up every cent you owe us. Got it? After handling business, the crew takes off with the guy's brand new car. Now that's the Cody family style. Just when the family seems to be in a rare moment of calm, Joshua gets tangled up in a murder case. Not long ago, at a party with some underworld types, Joshua met a girl named Mia. They hit it off fast, both around the same age, both fresh off breakups. But this seemingly perfect romance ends up bringing a heap of trouble to the Cody family. Later, Joshua lies to Janine, saying he bought a bowling alley. Since he's busy pulling jobs with his uncles, he doesn't have time to run it, so he asks Mia to manage the place for him. He even lets her stay in his new apartment for free and offers her a generous salary. And just like that, Mia officially becomes the manager of the bowling alley. But when Joshua heads back to his office, he finds a strange man there. When he asks who the guy is, Mia claims he's her distant cousin. Joshua doesn't hold back, kicking him out on the spot. Not only does the guy refuse to back down, but he taunts Joshua before leaving. Once they're gone, Joshua stashes all the cash he stole in a safe. Not long after, the cousin sneaks back into the office while Joshua's away. He grills Mia about why she didn't just steal the safe, but she says it's only a small fraction of Joshua's wealth. they need to wait for a better chance. Then she wraps her arms around him from behind. By now, you've probably guessed their real relationship, a couple pretending to be siblings. Later, Mia and her cousin meet up with a guy named Billy, who just got out of prison. Turns out, Mia and Billy used to be a thing. After the cousin leaves, Billy threatens Mia, demanding $10,000 or he'll spill the beans about their secret affair. His words leave Mia on edge. To get rid of the threat from Billy, the next day, Mia goes to Joshua for help. She says she parked her car at a friend's place last night and needs to pick it up. But when they get there, Mia tells Joshua to keep the engine running and wait, then heads straight into Billy's yard. Without a word, she pulls out a gun and shoots him several times. The scene leaves Joshua sitting in the car scared out of his mind. He drives Mia to the outskirts of town, grabs some tools to mess up the car, planning to stage it like the vehicle used in the crime was stolen. But Mia tells him not to worry, saying Billy didn't have cameras, so the cops won't be able to track them down. Then she adds that they're in this together now. If things go south, they'll have to help each other. Joshua listens, thinking this woman's completely lost it, acting without even thinking things through. The next day, Mia heads back to the apartment Joshua got for her, but when she tries to unlock the door, the code's been changed. She checks the back entrance and finds all her stuff thrown outside. Panicked, she calls Joshua, but he's done with her. Furious, Mia breaks down the door and storms in, hell-bent on trashing everything inside. Say what you will, but when a woman snaps, there's nothing she won't do. Then she calls her cousin over, and together they clean out all the cash in Joshua's safe. That night, when Joshua gets home, the sight in front of him leaves him stunned. That bitch. The next day, Joshua tracks Mia down through his underworld contacts. He brings a gun, corners her, and demands she return the stolen money. But Mia doesn't back down, boldly saying the cash is her hush money. If he doesn't play along, she'll spill everything he's been hiding from Janine. Just like that, all the money Joshua worked so hard to stash is gone. To make up for the loss, he heads back to the family, planning their next job. This time, the target is a big concert Joshua's been eyeing for a while. He says a friend's dad is organizing the event, and he can use that connection to get a part-time gig there. According to Joshua's intel, the backstage area will be loaded with expensive instruments worth over $200,000 in total. Plus, since the performers all signed NDAs, there won't be any surveillance cameras backstage, a huge advantage for the heist. It sounds like this job might be a breeze. That afternoon, Joshua takes his uncles to the backstage area. The layout's pretty straightforward, and there aren't too many people around, making it easy to slip the instruments out without the staff noticing. But since they can't drive a personal car into the area, Joshua suggests stealing an ambulance. That way, they can safely move the instruments without drawing attention. After all, who's going to suspect an ambulance? The next day, Darren pulls an ambulance into the backstage area. Meanwhile, Joshua heads to the waiting room to distract the security guards. Once everything's set, Darren gets the signal from Joshua, and the crew jumps into action. The three of them work like a well-oiled machine. Pope and Darren wheel a stretcher to the target van, use bolt cutters to break the lock, then climb into the back, moving all the instruments into the ambulance. The whole process goes off without a hitch, leaving no trace behind. At the same time, Craig sneaks behind a car, opens the AC vent, and pumps in a hefty dose of nitrous oxide. Soon, the singers resting inside pass out cold. Craig slips in, swiping all their gold necklaces and jewelry. With everything done, the crew casually drives the ambulance away from the scene. This might just be their easiest job yet. But while they're still basking in their success, something unexpected happens.
Ben says about this.
Two masked guys step out of a big truck, stealing every last bit of loot the crew just scored. Before leaving, one of them drops a line. "Say hi to Joshua for me." Back home, the uncles are all banged up, but Joshua is completely unscathed. This raises Pope's suspicions. After all, only the family knew the details of this plan, and with that parting comment, this screw-up has Joshua's name all over it. Facing his uncle's accusations, Joshua can only grit his teeth and take it. By now, he's figured out who set him up. The only person he ever mentioned this plan to was his ex-girlfriend, Mia. And just as he suspected, Mia and her cousin are the ones who sabotaged the family's plan. Right now, they're throwing a party to celebrate their win, but they have no idea their days are numbered. That night, Joshua heads to the underworld hangout where Mia's hiding. After the mob guys make a call, Mia and her cousin show up fast. The mob boss asks if they stole something they shouldn't have today, but both of them deny it flat out. Fine, if that's how they want to play, they can settle it face to face. The second they walk into the room, the cousin spots Joshua and starts pointing fingers. "Don't listen to him, he's full of crap. He's just pissed because I stole his girl. Don't let him play you. I'll clear this up right now. Give me a gun." The mob boss coolly says this is his turf, no one's starting trouble in front of him. After grabbing a gun, he notices a chain around the cousin's neck and instantly realizes he's the one who stole from the Codys. Without hesitation, he shoots the guy dead on the spot. Then the boss hands the gun to Joshua, saying it's up to him to decide what to do with the woman in front of him. Mia tries to pull the emotional card on Joshua, but it doesn't work. A single gunshot rings out, and Mia joins her cousin in the afterlife. Afterward, Joshua brings all the cash, gold, and jewels back to the family. But even then, his uncles keep grilling him. They think Joshua is a ticking time bomb in the family, ready to blow up and take everyone down with him. And just like that, the cracks in their relationship grow even deeper. Janine gets the devastating news she has cancer. It all started 2 days ago. While heading to her room to rest, she suddenly passed out in the hallway. The next day, she went to the hospital for a full checkup, but after the tests, the doctor's expression said all the results weren't good. Sure enough, the CT scan revealed a large number of cancerous cells in her brain, and it's malignant. In other words, she's in the final stage. It goes without saying her days are numbered. Back home, Janine collapses onto the couch, feeling helpless. She refuses the doctor's treatment plan, and as a result, her condition rapidly worsens. That night, while brushing her teeth, blood starts pouring from her mouth. Unable to hold on, she collapses to the floor. Soon after, Pope happens to walk by and finds her in a pitiful state. He rushes her to the hospital for another checkup. The doctor lays it out straight for Pope about Janine's condition. Hearing the news, Pope can't believe it's real. He angrily confronts her, asking why she lied to them. Janine just tells him not to tell the others she doesn't want her kids to see her like this, so weak and broken. The next day, Janine meets with a friend in the underworld, looking to team up and buy a large stash of heavy weapons. Her friend doesn't get why Janine doesn't just send her sons to her turf to pick up the goods. It'd be way cheaper that way.
The boys don't need to know everything, do they?
That night, she drags a suitcase full of weapons to a parking lot. Spotting a car she likes, she walks over, uses her expert skills to pick the lock, and steals it, driving straight out of the city. She tracks down an old business partner, using the pretense of buying weapons to get him to take her to an underground bunker. She knows this guy has a habit of converting his earnings into weapons and jewels, stashing them in the bunker. He even brags to her that the jewels down there are worth at least $1 million, but that one sentence seals his fate. Not long after, he loses not just his fortune but his life too. Meanwhile, Pope can't handle the pressure anymore and finally tells the family about Janine's cancer. The news hits them hard. Sure, they often clash with her over the things she does, but deep down, they all care about her. A few days later, Janine returns to the family. Pope demands to know where she's been. She brushes it off, saying she was out securing a big score for them and this time, she's joining the job herself. Soon after, she gathers everyone together. She tells them about an old friend of hers who lives on a farm far from the city. He's built a massive bunker stocked with weapons and gold. Over the past few days, she scouted the place and found a tunnel nearby. If they bring the right tools to dig through, they can steal the gold and get it out. But the family's more worried about her health than the heist.
We know you're sick, Smurf. Pope told us.
I have maps, topographic and engineering maps. Let's get going on this. Now!
But Janine chooses to say nothing more about her illness, and her sons have no choice but to follow her orders. The day of the heist comes quickly. They head to the tunnel Janine mentioned. As planned, after divvying up the tasks, Joshua and 2 others grab their gear and head inside to get to work. They pinpoint the spot right beneath the bunker, then start drilling and chiseling their way up. Before long, they hit the steel wall separating them from the bunker. Darren drills a small hole in the steel, slipping a camera through to check inside. Once they confirm no one's there, they use an electric saw to cut a bigger hole to crawl through. Meanwhile, Janine takes Pope to the farm to meet her old friend. Pope, this is your uncle, Jack, and this is his right-hand man, Olin. They go to Jack's house to buy time for Joshua's team to pull off the job, casually chatting about old times. At that moment, Janine gets a text from Joshua, but she doesn't rush to leave. Instead, she says she wants to buy a few guns from Jack's bunker. So they head to the bunker. At the same time, Joshua's team has already cleared out all the gold and valuables, loaded them onto the truck, and taken off from the scene. Jack arrives and uses his key to open the steel door, but he doesn't realize Joshua's team has already chained it shut from the inside. While he's still confused, Janine pulls her gun and shoots him point blank. Pope seizes the moment, turning to punch Olin to the ground. Then Janine fires another shot, finishing off her old friend for good. At this point, Janine goes berserk, taking down the rest of Jack's men single-handedly, but with no one covering her, she takes a bullet to the leg. Pope, dual-wielding his guns, jumps in to save her. After taking out the last of the enemies, he gets Janine now wounded out of there. It doesn't take long for them to reach the agreed-upon rendezvous point, but while everyone's worried about her, Janine suddenly loses it.
You idiot! Did you ever get anything right?
Smurf, you're bleeding.
I know I'm bleeding! I'm supposed to be dead!
The reason she started this shootout in the first place was because she didn't want to die a slow, miserable death in a hospital bed, ravaged by her illness. She wanted to go out in the middle of a job, preserving her dignity to the end. Then she snatches Darren's gun, points it at Pope, and demands he shoot her.
Shoot me, Andrew.
No.
Andrew, don't you get it? I'm already dead! It's over!
While everyone's still at a loss for what to do, Joshua, standing off to the side, decisively pulls the trigger, ending Janine's life. The reason he does it is because he made a promise to her.
Bullshit all day long? That ever happens to me, you put a bullet in my head.
Okay.
Janine's death throws the family into chaos, but her sons have no idea about the promise between her and Joshua. They think he's just trying to take her place, so they start icing him out. Are we holding a memorial for her? You know, Joshua, everything you say always makes sense. You always have an excuse. You've used every trick in the book to worm your way into this family. You think you can run this family. You think you can be her. You're nothing but a parasite. We don't trust you. Ever since you showed up, you've been lying to us. You've got one day to pack your stuff and get out. With no other choice, Joshua leaves for now, but not long after, he receives Janine's will from her lawyer. Instead of splitting the estate evenly among her sons, Janine left the bulk of it to a woman named Pamela. The decision baffles Joshua. So he returns to the family, asking if anyone knows who Pamela is, but they're all clueless. At this point, Pope steps in, saying the priority right now isn't chasing down some stranger, it's restoring the family's reputation. Janine's death has seriously damaged the Cody family's street cred. Even the lowlife thugs from the next block over are bold enough to talk smack about them, so they decide it's time to put those punks in their place. What's it like to have a mob boss for a mom? At a pool, a little boy is splashing water on a girl, ignoring her pleas to stop. A young Janine turns to the woman next to her, asking if the boy is her son. The woman glances over briefly and shrugs, saying they're just kids playing, no need to worry. Janine doesn't bother arguing with the woman's smug attitude. Instead, she gently touches young Pope's hand. He gets the hint immediately, jumping into the pool and dunking the boy who was bullying his sister.
Will you stop him?
They're just playing, right?
Hey, cut it out, guys! Hey, knock it off!
Will you get him off my son?
Seeing his son nearly drown, the boy's dad jumps in to intervene. But the more he tries, the tighter Pope holds on. It's only when Janine speaks up that the boy is finally spared. The boy's face is bright red from lack of air, all his earlier bravado gone. But the story doesn't end there. As they're leaving, Janine notices the woman still rummaging through her car. An idea sparks in her mind. She tells Pope to take off his shirt, then grabs a hanger from the passenger seat. Once the woman drives off, Janine walks to the back of her car, opens the gas tank, and stuffs Pope's shirt inside. She pours a bottle of high-proof liquor she had ready over it, lights a cigarette, tosses it onto the shirt, and walks away calmly. In moments, the car, perfectly fine just seconds ago, bursts into flames, reduced to a pile of charred metal. Seeing this, Pope, who'd been sulking, finally cracks a satisfied grin. Fast forward 30 years, Pope is now grown, and Janine, who'd been battling cancer, was shot dead by her grandson, Joshua. While the brothers are discussing how to handle Janine's funeral, the lights in the house suddenly flicker on and off. Before they can react, a pickup truck smashes through the gate. A group of armed men jump out, charging in, only to run straight into the Cody brothers, who'd already been scoping out the situation. A fierce gunfight breaks out. The enemy's too strong for now, so they retreat into the house to regroup, but they barely have time to catch their breath before the intruders sneak in with guns, planning to use night vision gear to take out Joshua and the others. It's a solid plan, but navigating the house to find their targets is the real challenge. The layout is the Cody's biggest advantage. Soon enough, Joshua and Darren, using the terrain to their favor, manage to shoot two of the intruders. Meanwhile, Craig sneaks onto the rooftop and, catching a guard outside off guard, takes him down with a clean shot. At the same time, Pope charges in from behind with a baseball bat, knocking out another enemy, then shoves him into the pool, holding him under until he stops struggling. Only when he's sure the guy's drowned does Pope let go. As Pope steps out of the pool and sees the bodies scattered on the ground, memories of Jack's crew from the farm the other day flood back. It's clear this is their revenge. To eliminate the threat, the Cody brothers quickly load the intruders into a car and drive to a deserted spot in the outskirts. Without a word, they open fire, taking out the rest of the group. The incident brings the Cody family back together, at least for now, but with Janine having left her estate to a woman named Pamela, and the gold they recently stole still unsold, they're forced to plan a new job to keep the family financially afloat. Not long after, under Joshua's lead, the uncles gear up for another heist. This time, their target is a crashed plane in the outskirts, loaded with drugs. Joshua says, a day earlier, Joshua got a tip from a contact that a plane belonging to a drug cartel had crashed in the outskirts. It was carrying a ton of cash and drugs, but the crash site is on a rugged mountain road, surrounded by steep cliffs, making it a risky job that no one's dared to touch. Of course, Joshua isn't about to let this opportunity slip. Since Janine's death, the family's been on edge. Even random thugs have had the guts to break into their house. They need a solid plan to rebuild the Cody family's reputation. They head to the location fast. After getting out of the car, they split up to get to work. Joshua, Darren, and Craig grab their gear and start climbing the mountain to search, while Pope stays at the base to cover them. The mountain path is rough and treacherous, but for the Codys, it's nothing they can't handle. It doesn't take long for them to reach the peak. Without wasting words, they ditch the car and hike up higher. At the top, Joshua pulls out a drone to scout the area. Using GPS, they quickly pinpoint the crash site. They secure ropes at the peak, and Joshua and Darren rappel down the mountainside. Craig stays up top, helping Darren lower a bike down, then joins them by rappelling down too. They ride their bikes across the rocky mountain path, making their way to the crash site. Joshua grabs his tools and pries open the cargo hold, but when they get inside, they find it's not cash, it's heroin. Short, the stuff's worth a fortune, but figuring out how to sell it is the real challenge. Still, they've come this far, no way they're leaving empty-handed. They decide to take the haul, but just then, a drone appears overhead. Before they can react, gunfire erupts from the top of the mountain. Looks like someone else has their eyes on this stash. Seeing the situation turn bad, the group bolts on their bikes, pedaling like mad toward the base of the mountain. But the rugged terrain takes its toll. It doesn't take long for a rock to puncture Craig's tire. Meanwhile, the guys up top keep chasing, unloading a barrage of bullets at them. With chaos erupting, the two uncles scramble for cover, but Joshua stays focused, frantically fixing the tire. In just a few quick moves, the tire's good as new, earning him a new level of respect from his uncles. With the fix done, the three hit the road again. To shake off their pursuers, they take a different route. Just when they think they've made a clean getaway, they hit a steep, vertical drop ahead. There's no turning back now, they've got to risk it. Joshua backs up a few steps, gathers momentum, and pedals full force down the slope. The two uncles follow suit, racing down the drop. Just like that, the three escape their enemies, meeting up with Pope, who's been waiting at the base of the mountain. They ditch the bikes, and Pope gets them in the car, speeding away from the scene. But the danger's far from over. Without Janine's protection, the cops have started sniffing around the Cody family. They need to offload this drug haul fast. If the police catch them with this much illegal stuff, they're looking at serious prison time. Joshua reaches out to his informant to sort things out, but the guy turns out to be a backstabber, jacking up his cut from 20% to 50%. It's a ridiculous demand, but Joshua has no choice but to agree. Trouble just keeps piling up. While the family's still figuring out how to rebuild their reputation, the woman mentioned in Janine's will suddenly shows up.
Darren, I'd like you to meet my son, Phoenix.
So?
My granddaughter, Lark. Pleasure to meet you.
Let's rewind 30 years to see just how wild a young Janine really was. While the owner of a jewelry store isn't paying attention, Janine grabs all the necklaces on the counter and bolts. The owner grabs his gun and chases after her, but before he can fire, Janine's partner, Pamela, comes speeding in with a car and knocks him down. The two work together like a well-oiled machine, and it's this teamwork that lets them run the streets back in the day. Fast forward 30 years, Janine has passed away, and her estate has been left to her old partner in crime, Pamela, the same woman who fought by her side through thick and thin. This decision baffles Joshua and his uncles, who are, after all, Janine's own sons and grandson. But Pamela isn't interested in the estate. She's here for a different reason. She's heard how tight-knit the Cody family is when it comes to pulling off jobs, so she makes them an offer: help her steal a safe, and she'll sign over all of Janine's assets to them. If they refuse, they'll have to move out by the end of the week. It's their own family's inheritance, and now an outsider is calling the shots. The Codys aren't happy about it, but with no other way to reclaim what's theirs, they have no choice but to agree to Pamela's terms. That afternoon, the group heads to the job site with Pamela's son. The target is an amusement park run by a local gang, and the safe is in an office on the second floor. Security here is pretty lax, but the place operates 24/7. There's no way to get the safe through the main entrance, but that's no problem for the Codys, they've already got a plan. The next day, they disguise themselves as repairmen to get into the adjacent building. The idea is to drill a hole through the wall from the next room over to sneak into the office without the gang noticing. It sounds like a solid plan, but they overlooked one thing: the noise. It doesn't take long for the drilling to catch the attention of the park's manager. It's the weekend, there's no construction scheduled, so the manager and his crew storm over to the neighboring floor, pissed off and ready to set things straight. They even call the construction company to complain. When they get there, Joshua, who's standing guard outside, stops them. One of the guys can't hold back, letting loose a string of curses and ordering them to clear out in 10 minutes or else they'll regret it. With no other choice, Joshua heads back upstairs to tell the others to pull out, but Darren insists they're almost through the wall. They can't let all their work go to waste. For the sake of the estate, they've got to take the risk. Sure enough, it doesn't take long for Darren to break through the wall and get inside, but they quickly realize they're in a storage room. The safe is actually in the office next door. After a quick discussion, they come up with a new plan: bust through the door and escape through the window. They divvy up the tasks. Craig hurries downstairs to bring the car around for backup, while Darren uses a crowbar to pry the door open. Once he spots the safe, Darren grabs his tools and gets to work removing it. Meanwhile, Joshua ties the door shut with rope to buy them some time. But at that moment, the manager gets a call from the construction crew, saying they didn't send anyone to work today. Realizing they've been played, the gang panics and rushes to the second floor. They can't get the door open, so the manager orders his guys to grab tools to break it down. By then, Joshua and Darren have already tossed the safe out the window, jumped down to the car below, loaded it up, and taken off. When the gang finally breaks through the door and storms in, Joshua and his crew are long gone. Just like that, the Cody brothers pull off the job, delivering the safe straight to Pamela. True to her word, she hands over Janine's entire estate to the family. Because of this, the crew disappears for a few months to handle the legal paperwork for the inheritance. Craig and his girlfriend welcome a cute baby boy, but while he's out for a walk with his son, some reckless punk scares the kid. Without hesitation, Craig shoves the guy to the ground, and he's not done. He orders his guys to round up all the skateboards from the local punks, piling them up in the town square. With a whistle, a monster truck rolls in from behind, and without a word, it crushes the whole pile of skateboards. The punks watching are stunned, frozen in place. In no time, the skateboards are reduced to a heap of scrap. Only then does Craig turn to his son, reassuring him, "I won't let skateboards scare you anymore, buddy." But this is just another day in the life of the Cody family. Lately, Joshua's been tied up handling Janine's estate transfer, so the crew hasn't pulled a job in a while. Feeling the itch to get back in the game, Darren and Craig decide to have a little fun. They set their sights on a yacht docked at the harbor. According to their informant, a group of rich guys are gambling on board. The two mask up, grab their guns, and sneak onto the yacht. The high rollers on the boat have no idea danger's closing in. A second later, Darren and Craig kick the door open and storm in. After getting the group on the yacht under control, Darren starts searching for anything valuable, but to their surprise, all the cash on board is just stacks of $1 bills, no high-value checks like the informant claimed. Craig immediately grills them, asking if they've hidden the real money somewhere. One of the guys admits he doesn't have much cash, and he only stole his dad's keys to the yacht to show off to his two buddies. Darren and Craig are speechless, but they still decide to teach these wannabe big shots a lesson. Craig heads to the front of the yacht, disables the alarm system, and sets sail, leaving the harbor behind. Before long, they're 50 nautical miles from shore. Craig tells Darren to take a speedboat and wait nearby, while he sabotages the engine to leave the yacht stranded at sea. Back inside, he finds a stash of drugs, then calls the Coast Guard, reporting that the yacht's in trouble and needs rescue. After hanging up, Craig dumps the entire stash of drugs all over the fake high rollers. With that done, Craig bolts outside and takes off with Darren on the speedboat. Short, this job didn't come with a big payday, but at least they had a good time. Back in the day, a stunt like this would have definitely earned them a scolding from Janine. Before they can fully soak in the fun, Joshua gathers everyone for a new plan. This time, their target is a money laundering operation run by a local gang. Scoping the place out from the outside, the sheer scale of the operation blows them away. A day earlier, Joshua got a tip from an informant about this spot, a money laundering hub for the mob, moving around $1 million a day. With that kind of profit on the table, there's no way they're passing it up. They quickly put a plan together and get ready to move. The next afternoon, Darren plants a tracking device in a stack of cash, then has the informant pose as a business partner to deliver the money to the laundering operation. The guy in charge doesn't check it too closely, he just logs the info and stashes it in a cabinet. Soon enough, the tracker starts pinging. The crew heads out to follow the signal, eventually tracing it to a major port. That's when they realize the gang's been using disguised shipping containers to move the cash out for processing. The port's under tight security, with cops patrolling the waterways. For most people, pulling off a heist here would be next to impossible, but for the Codys, it's just another day on the job. The next day, they split up to execute the plan. Joshua disguises himself as a delivery driver, sneaking Pope and Craig into the port hidden in the truck. Meanwhile, Darren poses as a maintenance worker, waiting out on the water to back them up. The crew quickly locates the container hiding the cash. Craig grabs a pair of bolt cutters, snaps the lock, and he and Pope haul their gear inside, while Joshua stays outside to keep watch. Once they spot the safe, they fire up a blowtorch to cut through the lock, but at that moment, a worker passing by notices sparks coming from the container's door and turns to check it out. Sensing trouble, Joshua floors it, ramming his truck into the worker's vehicle.
I'm sorry, man. What the hell's wrong with you? Is it okay?
Though they manage to stop the worker from inspecting the container, their argument catches the attention of the port manager. By now, Pope and Craig have cracked the safe and are stuffing the cash into bags, but the manager, arriving at the scene, realizes Joshua isn't a port employee. Hearing noises from the container, he orders his men to grab Joshua, then pulls his gun and cautiously approaches the container. Pope, about to leave, senses someone closing in. The second the manager opens the door, Pope kicks him to the ground. He and Craig grab the money and bolt, while Joshua seizes the moment to break free from the henchmen holding him. The manager, furious, gets up and starts firing at Joshua, chasing him down. At the same time, the Coast Guard hears the gunfire and speeds toward the port. Pope and Craig link up with Darren, who's been waiting on the water for backup, and they immediately head to rescue Joshua. To escape the pursuit, Joshua has no choice but to jump into the ocean. Luckily, his uncles arrive just in time, pulling him onto their boat. They manage to get away from the port, but the Coast Guard is already closing in. It's all part of the plan, though. They race toward a sharp turn, veering into the enemy's blind spot, then strap on oxygen tanks and jump into the water. Craig sets the boat to autopilot before jumping in too. Just like that, they trick the Coast Guard, who speed off after the empty boat, oblivious to the Codys hiding underwater. The mission's a complete success. Back home, the crew can't stop grinning as they look over their haul, and even their informant can't help but praise their skills.
Hey, it's nice to see you boys working together. Smurf would be proud.
That night, the brothers throw a party to celebrate the win. Want to know how tough Pope was when he was young? Just watch what he does next, you'll see. Pope's pushing a cart of tools, sneaking through the hallway of a school. He sprays the door handle with a can of coolant, wraps it with a rag, and then smashes it with a hammer. Just like that, the classroom door pops open. On the other side, Baz, still a young guy, back then has a car waiting outside to back Pope up. Seeing the coast is clear, Baz uses bolt cutters to snap the chain on the gate, slips into the school, and hurries to meet Pope in the classroom. Their goal: steal all the computers in the room. The two quickly load the computers onto the cart and cover them with a white sheet to hide them. But right then, Julia, who's keeping watch in the hallway, gets spotted by a teacher on duty. Before the teacher can even ask why she's there, a noise from behind startles him. He turns around and recognizes Pope, one of his students. Julia tries hard to explain that it's not Pope, but the teacher doesn't buy it. By the time they rush to the classroom to check, Pope and Baz have already cleared out all the computers. Furious, the teacher drags Julia off to call the cops. Meanwhile, Pope and Baz have loaded the computers into the car. When Pope hears his sister's in trouble, he grabs a skateboard from the car and heads back to save her, leaving Baz alone with the haul. Back at the school, the teacher's got a tight grip on Julia, refusing to let go. Luckily, Pope arrives just in time, tackling the teacher to the ground. A janitor nearby tries to step in, but before he can get close, Pope swings his skateboard, forcing him to back off. To help Julia escape, Pope climbs the fire escape, drawing the teacher's attention. Thanks to his skateboard, he zips through the hallway like lightning, losing the teacher at a turn on the stairs. Julia makes it out and finds Baz's getaway car waiting outside. Pope soon climbs over the iron fence to join them, but before he can hop in, the teacher catches up, blocking his way. A fierce fight breaks out between them. Seeing Pope about to get caught, Julia ignores Baz's protests and jumps out of the car to help her brother. But as soon as she gets there, the teacher grabs her. Seeing his sister in trouble, Pope's rage explodes. He slams his skateboard hard into the janitor. At that moment, Baz notices security guards closing in. With no other choice, he leaves the siblings behind and drives off with the car full of computers. As expected, Pope gets pinned down by the guards. Fast forward over 20 years, and Pope's temper hasn't changed a bit. When he spots a group of reckless punks invading his turf, he storms over, ordering them to leave.
Get out. Why? Not hurting anyone.
The punks completely ignore Pope's warning, continuing to skateboard, which pushes his anger to the boiling point. Not long after, Darren shows up looking for Pope. He tells him that Lennon hasn't paid rent in months and still won't move out. Darren wants Pope to step in and teach him a lesson. Pope listens and agrees to help without hesitation. Before leaving, he hands a bat to a worker at the skate park, saying, "Don't let any of these punks come back here to play." But this seemingly simple task of collecting rent nearly costs both of them their lives. Darren knocks on Lennon's door, and he politely asks them to wait a moment, but a second later, they hear the sound of a gun being loaded. Realizing things are about to go south, the two bolt downstairs and hide behind a car. At the same time, Lennon steps out, gun in hand, saying he doesn't have any money but he's got a life to offer. Clearly, he doesn't understand how the Cody family operates. Facing a hostile tenant like this, they're not about to show mercy. Pope hands Darren a bottle of liquor, telling him to count to 20 and then throw it upstairs. Darren doesn't get why, but he follows Pope's instructions anyway. Somehow, in the blink of an eye, Pope scales up to the rooftop. When Darren finishes counting, he tosses the bottle, successfully grabbing Lennon's attention. Seizing the moment, Pope swings down from the roof, sneaking up behind Lennon and kicking him to the ground, then locking him in a chokehold. Darren rushes over, snatching the gun from Lennon's hand, and of course, Pope doesn't hold back, giving him a brutal beatdown. Afterward, Lennon opens up about his struggles. He used to be a soldier on the battlefield for the U.S., but a mistake during a mission led to heavy casualties for his team. The U.S. government deported him back home, stripping him of all his military benefits. His wife left him after hearing the news, and now he's just been drifting, barely getting by in this place. Hearing this, Pope feels a pang of sympathy. He tells Darren that if they kick Lennon out now, he might do something desperate and hurt innocent people. Darren agrees with Pope's take, so he decides to cut Lennon's rent for the next few months and even encourages him to find a new job to start over. Say what you will about the Codys, they might be ruthless, but they don't bully the weak. Maybe that's why they've earned the reputation they have today. In another scene, Joshua, who's been off the radar for a while, tracks down a jewelry dealer to sell a diamond Janine left behind, but the dealer, thinking Joshua's just a naive kid, tries to lowball him, offering only a third of the market value. What he doesn't know is that he's dealing with a key player in the Cody family. If you don't like the deal, you don't have to take it, no big deal. Is that how you want it? Are you selling or not? Because of this less than pleasant deal, it won't be long before Joshua makes him pay a heavy price. Back home, Joshua fills his uncles in on what happened, then digs into the dealer's background. They find out he's not only loaded but also has a house full of rare treasures, so Joshua decides to team up with his uncles for a new job, steal all those jewels for themselves. Right now, though, they don't have any solid leads for the heist. To get a better lay of the land, the next day, Craig is sent to scope out the dealer's place. He poses as a wealthy buyer, there to purchase some high-end jewelry. This gives him a chance to slip upstairs unnoticed, but up there, every room is secured with a keypad lock. Before he can even try to crack one, he hears the dealer's voice behind him. "Oh, I was just looking for the bathroom. The bathroom's downstairs. I think I must have passed it. Is that why you're looking for the cameras?" The dealer tells Craig that the place is rigged with hidden cameras everywhere, and there are even pressure sensors under the floor. Everything Craig did just now was caught by security, and just like that, he gets kicked out. Looks like this place is tougher to hit than they thought. Back home, Joshua and the crew huddle up to plan their next move, but Craig shoots down every idea. He thinks with the kind of security they've got there, pulling off a heist is next to impossible, no chance at all. But then Joshua suggests they start with the dealer's brother, Arthur, who works under him. Joshua remembers how, during their last deal, the dealer kept humiliating his brother, mocking his looks and calling him dumb. Even though Arthur was pissed, he couldn't say a word back. Plus, as Joshua was leaving, Arthur said something cryptic. "Hey, don't come back here again." So Joshua tracks down Arthur and gets straight to the point. "I want to steal your brother's jewels. You want my help?" "Exactly. Why should I do that?" "Because he doesn't even treat you like a human." Joshua points out the stark difference in how the brothers are treated. The younger one lives in a fancy mansion every day, while Arthur's stuck in a rundown shack. Is he really okay being his brother's lackey for the rest of his life? Those words start to get to Arthur. Seeing his hesitation, Joshua leaves his phone number, telling Arthur to call if he changes his mind. A few days later, Arthur does reach out to Joshua, agreeing to join their heist, but the security at the dealer's place is too tight. They'd have no shot at breaking in directly. However, Arthur reveals that a shipment of gems worth $2 million is about to be transported to an exhibition. He can provide the time, location, and a batch of fake jewels for them to use in the job, but once it's done, he wants a 50-50 split of the profits.
20, 30, 25, and we'll guarantee you 50 grand.
With that, they strike a deal. The exhibition kicks off soon after, and the Cody brothers get to work. Joshua and Pope follow a garbage truck to an empty lot behind the venue, using a blueprint to locate the mansion's water pipes. They use a saw to cut into the pipe, and Joshua hooks it up to the garbage truck, turning on the valve to let sewage flow back into the building. At the same time, Darren, disguised as a security guard, slips into the mansion to do a check. While he's talking to the manager about safety protocols, a woman suddenly bursts out of the bathroom, yelling that the toilet's busted. The manager has no choice but to call for a repair crew to fix it immediately. Right on cue, Pope shows up, posing as a repairman. The manager's in such a rush that security doesn't even check Pope's tool bag before letting him inside. Once inside, the sight of dirty water flooding the floor makes Pope gag. He can barely hold it in. He quickly texts Joshua, who's waiting outside for backup, and the mess gets sucked away in no time. Then Pope pops open the tank behind the toilet, stuffing all the fake jewels inside. With that done, he hurries out of the mansion. Seeing Pope make a clean exit, Darren, still inside, springs into action. He disables the mansion's security system, shutting down the cameras and the police alarm. Then he heads to the bathroom, pulling out the fake jewels Pope had stashed there. At that moment, the host of the exhibition rolls up in a fancy car. Craig, disguised as a paparazzo, leads a group of fake photographers, swarming the front and snapping pictures. While security's distracted, Craig slips into the mansion. When the rich guy drives in, Craig times it perfectly, darting out in front of his car. The sudden commotion draws everyone at the exhibition over, giving Darren the chance to swap out the real jewels on display. But just as he's about to switch the last necklace, the rich guy walks in with his girlfriend and puts the one real necklace on her. Seeing this, Darren's stumped, but he's not about to bail. Thinking fast, he comes up with a plan. He tells the girl he needs to take photos and asks her to take the necklace off. But before he can slip away, the rich guy storms over, blocking his path and demanding the necklace back, saying he doesn't want anyone taking pictures in here. What he doesn't realize is that in that split second, the necklace in his hand has already been swapped for a fake. With the swap done, Darren heads back to the bathroom, packs up the real jewels, and stuffs them into the toilet tank. He flushes, sending them through the pipes to Joshua, who's waiting outside. Joshua and Pope spot the jewels coming through, quickly grab them, and seal the pipe back up. Just like that, the hall officially belongs to the Cody family. Darren makes his exit soon after. The security guards outside check him but find nothing suspicious, so they let him go. And with that, the Cody brothers pull off the job flawlessly, working together like a well-oiled machine. Back home, Joshua drops a bold idea. He wants the family to go clean and quit the game for good. After all, with the money they've made from past jobs, just the interest from the bank would be enough for them to live the good life without a worry for the rest of their days. His uncles trust Joshua's smarts and agree with his thinking. They're tired of living in constant fear anyway. It seems like the Cody family might finally have a shot at a peaceful life, but just a few days later, Craig's son gets kidnapped by a group of thugs. Craig gets the news and rushes home, frantically asking his wife who took their son, but she's still in shock, too shaken to give any useful info. One of their crew steps in with a lead. They've tracked down some intel. It's a drug trafficking gang behind this. They showed up last month, setting up a smuggling operation by the river nearby, and their activity has been centered around that area. Hearing this, the crew jumps into action. Once they reach the riverbank, the Cody brothers quickly spot the drug-dealing thugs. Darren pretends to be a customer, stepping forward to ask about prices as a distraction. While the gang's guard is down, Craig charges in from behind, pulling his gun and pinning one of them down. He forces the guy into the car, threatening him to reveal the exact location of their drug den. It doesn't take long for them to follow the thugs' info to a rundown house. One of their crew spots the red car stolen from Craig's girlfriend, confirming the kid's inside. The brothers jump out of the car to take action, leaving their crew to keep watch outside. They gear up with bulletproof vests and weapons, ready to execute the plan. Darren uses his expert lock-picking skills to open the iron door, and they sneak in. They creep up the stairs to the second floor, spotting a bald guy focused on cooking drugs in a room. Darren moves in with his gun drawn, clamping a hand over the guy's mouth from behind, while Craig knocks him out cold with the butt of his gun. They keep searching for the kid in the other rooms, but at the end of the hallway, a huge guy suddenly appears. A brutal fight breaks out, but Darren reacts fast, firing 2 shots and taking him down. Craig kicks down the door to another room. The man inside freaks out, grabbing a gun from the table and aiming it at Craig. At the same time, Darren bursts in from behind him, but not wanting the kid to witness a bloodbath, Craig signals Darren not to shoot. Instead, Darren shouts to distract the guy, giving Craig the chance to tackle him. After subduing the man, Craig checks on Darren. Thanks to the bulletproof vest, Darren's unharmed. Craig tells him to get the kid out of there first, then, without hesitation, shoots the bastard who hurt his family. Meanwhile, in another scene, Joshua invites a lawyer to dinner at a restaurant, hoping to get her help with dividing the family's assets. But then, a figure catches his eye. He follows the man to the kitchen, asking why he's late for work. The man glances at Joshua, scoffing that he'll show up whenever he wants. It's none of Joshua's business. What he doesn't know is that Joshua is the real boss behind this restaurant. A second later, the man takes a hard punch from Joshua, hitting the floor. "Remember my face next time. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. Be late again and see what happens." Joshua calmly returns to his table. The lawyer notices a stain on his sleeve and asks what it is. Joshua wipes off the blood with a napkin, casually saying it's just some tomato sauce from the kitchen. While everyone's busy handling their own business, an uninvited guest sneaks into the Cody family's mansion. A female cop sneaks into the Cody family's mansion while Joshua and the others are out. She moves through the house, rummaging around, clearly looking for something. Eventually, she finds a box in Pope's room. Inside are a stack of letters and a few photos of Baz's ex-wife and his daughter. It's obvious her visit has something to do with the people in those pictures. That evening, Pope gets home and immediately senses something's off. He notices the box on his shelf is upside down, a detail that someone with Pope's obsessive-compulsive tendencies would never miss. He turns to Joshua. "Did you touch the box up there?" "No, you sure? Positive?" Right now, it's just Pope and Joshua in the house. Darren and Craig haven't been around for days, so Pope suspects someone broke in while they were gone. He quickly checks the security camera footage and finds a section that's been tampered with, confirming his suspicions. The next day, Pope heads to the skate park and grabs a punk kid. He suspects the kid might be the one who broke in, since 2 days ago, this same kid took a nasty fall while using Pope's skateboard. The kid's injury was pretty bad, and seeing as he was a homeless teen with nowhere to go, Pope had been kind enough to bring him home to recover, but Pope had no idea it was all a setup. The kid's real goal was to get close to the Cody family and gather intel on them. After some intense questioning from Pope, the kid finally cracks and spills the truth. "She's a cop. I'm on probation. She said she could get my sentence reduced." "What precinct is she from?" "I don't know. I was just helping her get intel." "What kind of intel does she want?" Turns out the kid's a convict on probation. To avoid spending the rest of his life in prison, he agreed to work with the cop in exchange for a lighter sentence. He got close to Pope to spy on the family, which explains how the cop was able to break into the Cody mansion so easily. Now that the truth is out, the kid begs Pope for mercy. Pope, being the decent guy he is, doesn't make things harder for him. He just demands to know where the cop is hiding. "Are you in contact with her now?" Pope asks. "Tell me her address." That evening, the female cop, completely unaware of what's coming, steps out of the bathroom and finds Pope waiting for her in the room. But since Pope has already taken her gun, she has no choice but to follow his orders, pretending to be calm as she sits on the bed.
"And you were in my house."
Yeah.
"So how much?"
What?
"How much do you want?"
At first, Pope assumes she's like other cops, stirring up trouble with the Cody family for a payout, but her next words catch him off guard.
Who killed Catherine Bellin? You.
It turns out that not long ago, a construction crew dug up a body in an empty lot on the outskirts of town. The police found a passport in a nearby suitcase, and it belonged to Catherine, the woman the cop just mentioned. The cop suspects Pope is tied to Catherine's death because she spoke to Catherine's daughter. The girl said Pope came to their house the day her mom disappeared. The cop figures Pope killed Catherine that day, and she's right. Back then, Catherine had gathered a ton of evidence against the Cody family's crimes, but she refused to follow Janine's orders. She was determined to leave the ruthless crime family behind. To prevent any surprises, Janine convinced Pope to keep it a secret from everyone and kill her disobedient daughter-in-law. That's what set off the chain of events that followed. But right now, the police don't have solid evidence, so the cop has no choice but to let Pope go. Not long after Pope returns to the mansion like a shell of himself, he spills everything to his brothers. Darren and Joshua are stunned, and for the first time, Pope feels a kind of fear he's never known. If his crime gets proven, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. The next day, Joshua tracks down the best, most well-known lawyer in the area for help, hoping she can get Pope through this mess. After hearing the whole story, the lawyer points out that all the police have right now are theories, no hard evidence. As long as Pope doesn't confess, the police can't pin the crime on him for now. In the meantime, they need to buy time and gather evidence to prove Pope's innocence. But the police aren't about to give them that chance. By the afternoon, they bring Pope into the station as a murder suspect. The one interrogating him is none other than the same female cop he met 2 days ago. At first, Pope flat out denies every accusation the female cop throws at him, but she came prepared. Through her investigation, she learned that Pope deeply cares for his niece. After Baz and Catherine died, Pope didn't just take his niece, and he also set up a bank account with nearly $1 million to secure her future, just in case something happened to him. Even though she's not his own daughter, Pope treats her like she is, so the cop decides to use this as leverage, threatening Pope to force him into confessing to Catherine's murder. She warns that if Pope doesn't cooperate, she'll show Catherine's daughter photos of her mother's body and tell her that her uncle Pope killed her mom, leaving a permanent scar on the girl's heart. Do you want that, Pope? For your niece to see this picture? For the whole world to know her uncle killed her mom? That kind of verdict will ruin her life. But you can save her. All you have to do is admit what happened in the past. You know how to make this right. Her words break through Pope's weakest defense. He doesn't want his niece, who's already lost both her parents, to suffer any more pain. In the end, he gives in, confessing to everything.
Confessed to the murder of Catherine Ballin.
No, I didn't. I want to talk to my client.
Just like that, the police arrest Pope for murder. Knowing the Cody family has made plenty of enemies with other gangs, Pope realizes that once he's in prison, there'll be no shortage of people coming for revenge. Worried about their brother's safety, Joshua and Darren quickly shell out a hefty sum to hire protection for Pope in prison. But Pope seems to hate the idea. He doesn't want a bunch of guards tailing him all the time, he just wants some space to be alone in there. He even lashes out, showing his frustration with the guards. "Stay away from me." The guards have no choice but to back off, but right after they leave, a group of burly men rush in, shoving Pope to the ground. The attack leaves him injured, clutching his stomach in pain as he collapses. Meanwhile, when Joshua hears that Pope got hurt in prison, he storms over to the broker, furious, and chews him out, saying if they can't protect Pope properly, they're done. At this point, the broker explains that his security team didn't do anything wrong, it's Pope's own arrogance that got him into this mess. If Pope wants to stay safe, he needs to cooperate with the guards. The next day, while the other inmates are resting in prison, Pope can't take his eyes off the big guy who stabbed him earlier. The guards notice and warn him not to do anything rash, saying starting a fight here isn't a smart move. But there's no way Pope can let the guy off that easily. He charges at the big man, slamming him against the wall and laying into him. It takes the prison guards rushing in to pull the two apart, finally stopping the fight. Pope gets thrown into solitary confinement. On top of that, the prison doctor prescribes a sedative typically used for mental health patients to calm him down. Meanwhile, the Cody brothers gather at the mansion to figure out how to help Pope through this crisis. But Joshua says the situation's too complicated now, they can't fix it anymore. He suggests they leave Pope to his fate and move on with their lives. Darren and Craig quickly shut down the idea. They argue that the family has already lost two key leaders, Janine and Baz. If they lose their big brother Pope too, the Cody family will cease to exist.
It's a family business, Jay. That's where the trust comes from, family. And there's no family without Pope.
After some back and forth, the group decides to break Pope out of prison, then take all their assets and flee to the neighboring country of Mexico to start a new life. The next day, they start prepping everything they'll need for the mission. After getting their guns and ammo ready, Darren and Craig head to a sketchy used car lot and buy two beat-up cars with shady origins. They plan to use them to evade the cops during their escape. To make sure nothing goes wrong, the two expertly check every inch of the vehicles. Joshua visits Pope in prison, bringing along a few childhood photos of him. The female cop inspects them and, finding nothing suspicious, lets Pope keep the pictures. While Pope is focused on looking at pictures of his sister, Joshua, sitting across from him, subtly signals him. Pope notices and finds something hidden behind the photo, a tiny tracking device. He immediately understands what Joshua is up to. "Now it's all up to you. Can you keep in touch with us?" "Yeah, stay safe." At the same time, Darren and Craig head to a familiar beach to surf with the rest of the Cody family one last time. It's probably the most relaxed and happy moment they've had in a while. But when they get back to shore, they find the windshield of their car covered in profanity. Spotting a group of tall, tough-looking guys nearby, Darren walks over to ask if they know who did it. "Nah, man, that's messed up." "Yeah, it is. Probably some coward who did it and won't own up. You accusing us? If you've got the guts, come over here." Facing such blatant provocation, there's no way Darren and Craig are letting it slide. Back in his cell, Pope starts putting his plan into motion. First, he smashes the base of an electric kettle to get the wires inside, doing some quick rewiring. Then, using a blade fragment, he reopens the wound on his stomach, slips the tiny tracking device Joshua gave him inside, and heats up the modified wire to cauterize and stitch the wound closed. That afternoon, the Cody brothers gather at the mansion. Tomorrow, Pope's trial begins, and the police will use a secure van to transport him to court. That's their best shot to make a move. They start mapping out their escape route after hijacking the prison van, eventually settling on a remote desert with no one around for miles. But that night, Joshua goes to his room alone and fires up his laptop. He logs into the family's bank account where all the Cody brothers' money is stored. After a brief moment of hesitation, he opens a new account in his name and transfers over $5 million from the family's funds into it. This move foreshadows what's coming with tomorrow's rescue plan. The day of Pope's trial arrives quickly. The police escort him into the van and drive out of the prison. Darren and Craig, fully armed and ready, head to the spot they picked out earlier. The prison van has to pass through this road to get to the courthouse, a desolate stretch surrounded by desert for a 2-kilometer radius. Joshua, waiting up ahead, notices the signal from the tracker in Pope's body getting closer. He quickly texts his uncles, telling them to get ready to move. Darren and Craig immediately scatter spike strips across the road, load their guns, and find a spot to ambush, quietly waiting for the prison van carrying Pope to roll through. Joshua tails the van for a bit, but instead of following it all the way to the ambush spot, he turns his car around and heads in the opposite direction. Soon after, the van with Pope reaches the ambush point. Prison van and the escorting police car behind it lose control, crashing into the side of the road. Seeing their chance, Darren and Craig rush in with guns drawn. They don't see Joshua anywhere, but there's no time to think about that now. The priority is getting Pope out of the van and safely away from the scene. But during the operation, a cop who's still conscious stumbles out, firing at them non-stop. Craig drops to the ground, shooting through the undercarriage of the van and hitting the cop in the right leg. To avoid any more surprises, they quickly tie up all the cops. With that done, Craig grabs his gun, opens the van door, and successfully frees Pope. The three of them escape the scene in an off-road vehicle. At the same time, Joshua races back to the Cody family mansion. He turns on the TV, watching a news report about the hijacked prison van. Then he buys a new phone, calls the police, rats out Pope and his uncles, and even gives them the exact location of the three. Joshua heads to his room, packs his bags, and gets ready to take all the family's money and start a new life somewhere else. On the other side, Joshua's uncles reach the rendezvous point. Darren and Craig scramble to find the cars and supplies they'd prepped earlier, but Pope feels uneasy. Joshua still hasn't shown up. Pope takes off his bulletproof vest and uses a knife to reopen the wound on his stomach, pulling out the tracker. At that moment, Darren reaches the car, only to find all the tires slashed. He tries calling Joshua, but there's no answer. Meanwhile, Craig realizes the supplies they'd prepared are gone. It turns out that the day before, after visiting Pope in prison, Joshua had secretly gone to the rendezvous spot. While no one was around, he slashed the tires of the two shady cars his uncles had prepared, setting up the situation they're in now. Darren and Craig fill Pope in, and they realize Joshua sold them out. Pope stays calm, telling everyone to get out of there first, they'll figure things out later. But as soon as they leave, a swarm of police cars closes in. With no other options, they sneak into a nearby farm. They rush into the house, grab all the guns they can find, and spot an off-road motorcycle out back. But the bike can only carry 2 people. With the cops closing in, they're left with just 2 choices. Either all 3 brothers stay and fight the cops in a life-or-death battle, or 2 of them take the motorcycle and leave immediately. In the end, for the sake of his younger brothers, Pope decides to sacrifice himself. They all know deep down that if they part ways this time, they might never see each other again.
okay? I'm gonna be alright.
Then the three brothers share a tight hug, saying their goodbyes in silence, the way real men do. At this point, Pope has made peace with facing death. He grabs his weapons, steps out of the house, and takes on the cops. He raises his gun, aiming straight ahead, firing non-stop. But soon, he runs out of ammo. Pope's bulletproof vest takes a few hits, sending him crashing to the ground. He pulls out the two guns strapped to his hips and keeps fighting. Under Pope's fierce firepower, every cop on the scene goes down. Seeing his chance, Pope jumps into a police car and speeds off. Meanwhile, the two brothers who escaped through the back door get surrounded by more cops. Thanks to the motorcycle's agility, they manage to break free from the farm. But Darren's hand gets hit by a bullet, and since they need supplies to keep going on the run, they decide to rob a nearby convenience store. As soon as they step inside, Darren pulls his gun, threatening the owner to hand over all the cash and the keys to the car parked outside. But right then, the store owner's son shoots Craig. Darren jumps up, pointing his gun at the kid. The owner begs for mercy, and in the end, Darren doesn't kill the boy. He just grabs the money and keys, then helps Craig out of the store. On the other side, Joshua is at the house, smashing everything in sight. He's unleashing all his anger and frustration on the objects around him. At that moment, Pope climbs over the wall and returns to the mansion. When he steps inside, he sees that everything he and his brothers built has been destroyed. Furious, Pope storms into the room, grabbing Joshua from behind and choking him. Soon, Joshua stops struggling and passes out. But Pope doesn't kill him right away. He ties the unconscious Joshua to a chair. "We trusted you. We raised you like family. We let you in, we believed in you. And you betrayed us. You betrayed my brothers. You deserve to die." But Joshua still tries to lie, claiming he only came back because the cops were after him. "Stop lying," Pope snaps. Joshua drops the act. "You deserve it. You all deserve it. For everything you did to my mom. You deserve it. You could have saved her. But you didn't." Hearing this, Pope shoves Joshua into the lake. At the same time, memories flood back to him. Back then, Julia was pregnant, but because she deceived Janine, she got kicked out of the house and ended up living in a homeless encampment. Pope had wanted to speak up and stop it, but he was too afraid of Janine's authority to say anything. In the end, Janine threatened Julia with a gun, forcing her out of the car. Julia kept begging Pope for help, but from start to finish, he didn't dare do a thing. That moment became a scar in Pope's heart that would never heal. Seeing Joshua struggling in the lake, on the verge of death, Pope ultimately jumps in to pull him to shore. Maybe it's his guilt over Julia, or maybe it's his conscience eating at him. "She loved you so much. She always loved you. Her love for everyone never stopped. And you all did nothing for her." Those words make Pope's emotions even more complicated. He can't undo the pain he caused Julia, so he lets Joshua go, allowing him to leave the place. After that, Pope heads to the storage room, grabs a can of gasoline, and pours it all over the house. He looks at the home that once brought him warmth, and though he feels a pang of reluctance, he tosses a lit lighter onto the bed. The flames quickly spread through the mansion. Pope calmly walks to the poolside, looking at old photos of a young Julia and Janine. Unable to hold on any longer, he collapses to the ground. A broken man leaves this world alongside the fire. On the other side, Darren takes Craig to his favorite beach. With the wound in his stomach causing massive blood loss, Craig's consciousness fades. In the end, as Darren clings to him with reluctance, Craig slowly closes his eyes for the last time. Joshua, carrying a huge sum of money, escapes to a faraway place to start a new life. Because of his betrayal, the Cody family ceases to exist from that point on. Even though Joshua ends up as the last one standing, he loses all his family in the process. Perhaps this is his punishment. That's the full recap of Animal Kingdom. What did you all think of the show? On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate it? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for following along. Goodbye, and see you next time.